these have turned out here, and you can see with our extreme nav, this is Sycamore Creek Drive in Santa Clarita near the intersection of Mulberry Glen, and deputies have surrounded a home on Sycamore Creek Drive. We're getting unconfirmed reports that there may be some evidence that connects to the alleged suspect in this incident, and you can see the deputies surrounding this home down below. One report had that perhaps a cell phone ping, and that cell phone is connected to said individual. Again, all this information is fluid, not completely confirmed, but this is what we're hearing on scanner traffic and from other sources as well. Again, Sycamore Creek Drive below, another scene that they are investigating this surrounding the incident that occurred on the campus. We're not hearing of any other activity on the campus at this point, with the exception of more deputies arriving and individuals being treated and taken to nearby hospitals. In fact, we watched as an LA County fire helicopter landed at a nearby LZ, a landing zone, a baseball field, and an individual was taken to that point by ambulance and was going to be airlifted out of that field, likely to a hospital that could help he or she with the injuries that they sustained. Again, down below here, Sycamore Creek Drive, the 22,900 block here in Santa Clarita, adjacent to Saugus, not far from the campus of Saugus High School. The deputies have arrived on scene that they are investigating some sort of evidence that may connect the individual that they are looking into involving this incident. So challenging. I gotta be able to hear, you know. I mean, that's the words, no, but we're at such a disadvantage having to be so high. Because I'm good visually from up here at spotting stuff when I start. You know, there's a trail behind the... Well, they don't, because they don't...
Actually, kind of come over here.
Hey, how you doing? I was wondering if you could talk to you. I have my professional camera.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Can I just ask you one question? Okay.
Okay.
So what happened and how?
I was just in my government class. It was just really scary. You kind of panic, call their parents saying they love you. It was just really scary.
Were you able to call your parents?
Yeah, I was able
Okay. So are your parents coming to get you? And what's your name again?
Azalea.
And can you spell
A-Z-A-L-E-A.
Great.
He just called me about, he's our sound guy.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep.
Just give him a shot.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Eric Connor. We're live in the newsroom here right now. To all of you who are watching this on our social media feeds, a tragic situation unfolding just north of Los Angeles right now at Saugus High School. Reports of a shooter that was on campus there at Saugus High School. Shooting happened just a short time ago. We know of at least 5 people who were hit. We're not sure if those were students, if those faculty, if those were adults, but we know 5 people have been hit by gunshots near Saugus High School. There's a search for the shooter right now. We know 2 of the victims who were hit by gunfire have been taken to the hospital. 1 was airlifted because their injuries were so severe. 3 other people who were hit by gunfire have just been are being rushed to the hospital as we speak. This is at Saugus High School. I can tell you've been watching some of the chopper feeds, and they have been looking for the suspect. All we know is that he was wearing all black, and he was able to escape after the shooting. He is running around the neighborhood not far from the high school, and they've had choppers up. They've had crews out there. They've had deputies, canines, and police officers looking for the suspect right now, who's accused of shooting at least 5 people, 5 of them with injuries. 2 of them are at the hospital right now. So this is in Santa Clarita, which is about 45 miles north of Los Angeles. At Saugus High School, several of the schools are closed in that area. This is the William Hart district. They are on lockdown right now. In fact, there were some reports that this suspect was very close to an elementary school. So again, 3 victims are on the way to the hospital, 2 in critical condition at the hospital right now. 5 victims in total. At Highland Elementary was the elementary school that was locked down. I've been looking on my Google Maps here, and it looks like the area where the chopper was over near this home that they had particular interest in was just about 2 miles away from where this high school is. Some of the reporters there in Los Angeles have been saying that they've been looking at this home. There potentially was a cell phone ping that may be connected to the cell phone of the shooting suspect in this case. Unconfirmed reports at this point, but that's what we are hearing from the news agencies in Los Angeles. They say that there appears to be some evidence that was found at this home that is linking this all back to that shooting suspect. Los Angeles County Undersheriff Tim Murakami has been tweeting out, and I will be reading some of his tweets here. Shooters at Saugus High School, several injured. LASD resources are on the site there. They are searching for the suspect. Again, he says they are locking down the area schools. He advises all the residents in this area to shelter in place. I've been seeing a few tweets going out saying, if you live in this area, stay in your home. Do not answer the door. The authorities will let you know if it's them because, again, the suspect is running around right now. He has not been caught. They did just send out a tweet a moment ago saying that they have authorities at the scene of the schools and they are there to protect your children from any further harm. We're seeing some feeds come in of a chaotic scene. I did a lot of work in Denver where the Columbine shooting happened, and we've seen this scene far too often in our country lately of these neighborhoods and a lot of chaos and police and kids running out with their holding each other's hands and parents showing up hysteric, and that appears to be what is happening and unfolding right now in Los Angeles. We do know 5 people have been injured. We don't know if all of them were shot. We do know that 2 of them sustained critical injuries, have been rushed to the hospital. 1 had to be airlifted. So our thoughts are going with all the parents there in Santa Clarita School District of William Hart District. They are going through the latest school shooting here in California. So this home that they were at, the authorities were just at, that were searching, was just about 2 miles from where Saugus High School is. They did say that the shooter after the shooting ran away was dressed in all black. And so they've been canvassing the neighborhood, looking through bushes, trees, homes. We have not received a report, at least on our web team. I know you guys have been looking here. I've got Mitch here. He's helping me out. I have not seen any report of them catching a suspect yet.
Not yet.
I'm checking the LA County Sheriff's Twitter page here for the latest tweets as well. Their latest tweet just about 12 minutes ago saying this is still a very active situation. Again, 5 victims treated. Parents, deputies are on the scene there to help out the parents as well as those who are going through this process right now. Counselors are on hand to help these students with what they just witnessed. The latest school shooting here in California happening just 40 miles northwest of Los Angeles in Santa Clarita. This is at Saugus High School. I just looked up the attendance there. It's a pretty big high school. You're talking 2,300 kids here. You break that down into a grade, because that's how we can kind of figure out how big these schools, 600-700 per grade. So this is a big high school. You can imagine how people would be feeling when they hear these gunshots outside the school, or when there's a shooter that's inside. We haven't gotten any reports of whether the shooting happened inside or outside, but we know that 5 people were impacted by this. Any questions that we've been getting on Facebook? We have got some people weighing in. Michael Gutierrez and Stephanie Todd just saying, yikes. This is what goes through all of our minds, right, when something like this happens. I don't know about you at home, folks, but every single morning I wake up and I pray that something like that doesn't happen here in San Diego. This is 3 hours away from us. And sadly, this is the reality we live in now. When our kids go to school, they should be able to learn, go to school, and come home safely. And our schools are doing a great job trying to protect our kids. But in this day and age, evil acts will happen. And that appears to be what happened here in Santa Clarita at Saugus High School. We've got Gabby Hallman, who emotionally just sent us a message saying there are tears flowing down her cheeks right now. Just imagine what's going through the minds of the parents here at Saugus High School. We know a lot of the schools nearby are in lockdown, so they're feeling your pain there, Gabby, as well. We know that this shooter was wearing all black, took off after the shooting, ran into a nearby neighborhood. So you live in a neighborhood area, you got a school nearby you, and all of a sudden you're told to shelter in place because there's a madman running around with a gun that just shot up a school. So terrifying moments for people in this neighborhood, obviously for the people that go to the school. I'm watching some of the scene right here. There's just emergency personnel all over the place. We have 1 minute ago, the sheriff's department tweeting out that victims have been transported to the hospital. All 5 of them. We know one of them had such critical injuries they had to be airlifted to the hospital. So boy, that's tough to hear when you hear 5 people are hit and it's inside of school. One of them having to be airlifted because their injuries are so critical. The others are on the way. We have a crew on the way. Alicia Summers, one of our talented reporters here. I don't even think she's going to be stopping here in the building. I think she's just going to be heading right there to Santa Clarita to try and get the latest on what's happening. 22,900 block of Sycamore Creek Drive and Mulberry Glen is where they were looking at a home. I looked it up on my Google Maps here just a minute ago. It's about 2 miles away from Saugus High School. We haven't been told what kind of evidence they found at that home, but we had heard some unconfirmed reports that they may have gotten a cell phone ping to a cell phone that was believed to be connected to this suspect. Just got an update from the hospital there. The hospital that they've been brought to is Henry Mayo Hospital. Their latest tweet says hashtag Saugus High shooting. That's the hashtag they're using right now. We have received 2 patients in critical condition. 3 are on the way. We will provide you updates as soon as they become available. Again, that's the latest tweet coming from the hospital that is going to be dealing with these patients that are coming in. 5 people right now have been shot. 2 are in critical condition. This happened just an hour or so ago at Saugus High School. We've been hearing from the LA County Undersheriff giving us the latest updates, tweets. They've got a staging area. Their latest tweet sent 3 minutes ago, still an active scene. Resources are arriving from across the state already. They are working with the victims and the witnesses, probably trying to get a better description on who this suspect was. The only thing we've been told is a male dressed in all black came to shoot up the school. 5 people were shot, not entirely sure if they were all gunshots that led to those injuries, but we know shots were fired. We know 5 people are injured, 2 of them critically, 1 airlifted to the hospital. Again, they have been canvassing a neighborhood that's just outside, just southeast of Saugus High School. They've been putting their attention to this neighborhood because they apparently found some sort of evidence that may have connected the shooter to those homes. We're waiting to get more on that. We know they were just looking at the home in that area because of some possible connection there that's not very far from where this happened. The drive was only like a 5-minute drive, but as the crow flies, they're only about 2 miles away. So it's possible after the shooting, the suspect may have run off into that neighborhood and is still hiding from authorities. All of the social media accounts that we are following, and I've got Mitch here with me looking at all the social pages, none of them have confirmed that this shooter has in fact been found. So we are monitoring that here closely. We do know that a lot of the schools are in the are shut down in the area in the William Hart School District. I can also say we have a little bit more information now coming in on the suspect. This is the latest tweet, and I'm going to read it verbatim. Shooting at Saugus High School, please avoid the area. Male Asian suspect, black clothing, last seen at the location. Again, this is from the LA County Sheriff's Department's Twitter feed. Deputies are on the scene there, still responding. Avoid the area. Further information to follow. So they are looking for a man, an Asian man dressed in all black, who they believe is responsible for the shooting that injured 5 people at Saugus High School not too long ago. Our Alicia Summers is heading to the scene. We're going to have updates throughout the morning here. The LA County Undersheriff Tim Murakami saying that they've got resources, they've got staff at the school trying to help parents cope. Can't imagine being a parent of a Saugus High School student not knowing if this is one of your kids that has been shot. You're not going to get that information right away. I've unfortunately worked too many school shootings to know that right away that type of information isn't available to even the parents of these kids. So they're rushing to the school. They're not sure what's happening. A lot of them getting texts from their kids saying, hey, our school was shot. I'm okay. Come pick me up. So they've got staging areas they're working with right now. We have a lot of you weighing in on our social pages here on Facebook. Carolina Mitchell, I think she describes it best. She just says this is devastating. Sadly, we are getting just way too used to these school shootings happening. This one's pretty close to home here in Southern California. Saugus High School in Santa Clarita, 5 people have been injured. So thank you for weighing in here. We know that your hearts are heavy too, as Melissa Iglesias just weighed in and said. And this is tough. These are tough things to report. You know, I was saying earlier, when you wake up in the morning as a father of 3 little kids, 3 of them in schools, you know, you say a prayer, right? That something like this doesn't happen here. But these evil acts just keep on happening in our schools. We don't have any information on what kind of weapon was used in this. We know that gunshots were fired at Saugus High School a short time ago, and that the LA County Sheriff is there giving us the latest on social media. They tell us that it is an active scene and they are looking for a male Asian man wearing black clothing who was last seen in a neighborhood. They've been canvassing that neighborhood via chopper. They've had crews on the ground. We've seen canines running around. They've been told to shelter in place the residents there. So this is about 2 miles southeast of where that school is located. So we're going to be trolling through our feeds here. I know that William Hart District is on lockdown, and that our Ronpur has been keeping me in contact with some of those updates as far as the school districts. So schools on lockdown, elementary schools on lockdown. Get the latest from the CBS cell, Los Angeles. They obviously have multiple crews there. They're reporting a number of other victims have been injured, but the number we've been told is at least 5 victims wounded in the shooting at Saugus High School. This again is in Santa Clarita. If you're just joining us here on our Facebook page right now, we are covering a school shooting that happened a short while ago in Santa Clarita. So we're trying to get the latest right now. We're looking, if I'm looking at the screen, it's because I'm looking at some of the feeds here, and I'm trying to pass along the latest information as I'm seeing it all unfold. Crews running around chaotic there at this high school in Santa Clarita at Saugus High School. We've been seeing the helicopter choppers up, flying around trying to find this suspect they have not located, which is pretty rare in a school shooting. Where usually the authorities are right on them. They either shoot and kill the suspect, or the suspect, frankly, shoots and kills themselves. But very rare is it in these mass shootings where you have the suspect that's able to take off and be on the run for a good hour or so after this. New tweet from the sheriff's department there in Los Angeles. Quote, "We believe at this time that there is only one suspect, but we are actively investigating and following all leads." So that was one of the questions that we were wondering was, did this man have another person he was working with? In this case, it looks like it is a one lone suspect who has not been caught yet. We do know that 5 people have been shot. Don't know if they're students, don't know if they're faculty, don't know the ages. All we know is that 2 of them were critically injured. One of them was flown via helicopter because their injuries were so horrific, and the other 3 are on the way to the hospital. We just checked in with that hospital at Henry Mayo Hospital, and they were expecting a few more patients. They already have 2 that are there. So again, we are looking through our social media feeds. We are also, our desk is also making calls on this. It happened 7:45 a.m. At 21,900 Centurion Way, and that's just about 40 miles northwest of Los Angeles. We know that 5 people suffered gunshots, so now we are getting that information confirmed. It was 5 gunshot wounds, according to the LA County Sheriff's Deputy Eric Ortiz. That's what he told our CBS Los Angeles affiliate just a few minutes ago. Again, it's Henry Mayo Hospital. They've gotten 2 patients in critical condition. 3 others are on the way. One of the victims, we have just learned, was found wounded in the school's choir room. So now we have gotten confirmation that the school shooting did happen, in fact, inside the school, inside of the choir room. One of the people was shot, and that's the victim that was transported to the hospital a short while ago. So this happened at 7:45 in the morning. We know that it appears that the shooter at Saugus High School was in fact a student at the school. This is new information just coming in from our producers behind me here. Andrea, I've got a couple other producers that are working on this story. They're bringing me the details. So thank you for that, Andrea. It says it appears the shooter at Saugus High School was a student at the school. So that's the latest advisory that we are getting into our newsroom, which just makes this all the worse, right? A student at Saugus High School walks into his own school, shoots up his classmates. We know that 5 people are injured in this. 2 of them critically rushed to the hospital. 1 had to be airlifted. 1 of them was found with their injuries in the choir room and had to be rushed to the hospital. Devastating news coming out of Santa Clarita right now. The latest school shooting happening right here in Southern California, not too far from where we are, really. So I'm learning some new details as well from our CBS station in Los Angeles. They said that they are looking for this man in a neighborhood. He was last seen running west toward Highlands Elementary School, which is, again, west of the high school there. This is a large high school, by the way. This is a pretty big city. 2,385 kids go to this school. I'm hearing some of the students right now as they are weighing in on what happened there. They're in a residential neighborhood, and doesn't appear that they saw anything. But I'm seeing these high school kids with cell phones to their ears, crying, calling mom and dad, saying, "I'm okay." This is unfortunate. This is really unfortunate to see unfold right before our eyes here. A school that's not too far away, just northwest of Los Angeles, at Saugus High School, Santa Clarita. If you're just joining us here on social media, on Facebook here, we're bringing you the latest. Melissa Iglesias saying, "My heart is so heavy." I think that speaks to a lot of us here. My prayer is going out to everyone involved, says Amanda De Santiago, and Ham Sos says, "This is so sad." It's so sad indeed. And Joyce Stansbury, boy, you said it right here. So sad. Kids can't even go to school anymore without knowing what might happen. Praying for all. And she's right about that. I'm a parent of 3. I've got an 8, 6, and 4-year-old. And every day before they go to school, I pray that nothing like this happens. As do, I'm sure, these parents. Sadly, evil people will do evil things. And we've seen that so frequently in our society with these school shootings, these mass shootings. Whether it be at movie theaters. I covered the Aurora Theater shooting. That was one of the rare circumstances where a shooter survived, didn't kill themselves, or wasn't shot by police. In this situation, it looks like the shooter is still alive and on the run. Again, they're looking for a man dressed in all black, a student at the school. We've been able to confirm an Asian man at the school. Started at 7:30, 7:45 is when the first shots were heard, and the school is located in Santa Clarita. It's Saugus High School, and we can tell you that 5 people have been injured. We don't know whether they are students at this point, but we know at least one of the people that was injured was found in the choir room. I'm watching some of the feeds right now from neighbors who are seeing the police canvassing their neighborhood, looking in backyards, looking inside cars for this vehicle. We saw the authorities surrounding at least one home where they thought they potentially may have found some evidence. Keep looking on social media, see if there's any update on that. Roads have been closed. Classes have been canceled. Schools have been locked down. The district has 20,000 students in it. So 20,000 people and parents of those 20,000 kids just got text messages saying there's been a shooting in their school district. I can't even imagine getting that text message. And as a parent, what goes through your mind? I mean, obviously, is my kid okay? So right now, as we're speaking here, there's parents and kids engaging in text messages, parents wondering if their kids are going to be okay. We do know a total of 5 people have been injured by this, 2 of them with critical injuries after this school shooting unfolded around 7:30 this morning at Saugus High School. That's a high school of about 2,300 students in Santa Clarita. We don't have any other details on the suspect other than that he's an Asian man wearing all black who ran after the shooting took place. I don't even know if I can call him a man. He's a student, so we don't know what his age was, whether he was a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. But he was a student at the school, dressed in all black, which brings back, the thoughts of the Columbine shooting when they were all dressed in black as well. So that's who they're looking for. At this point, I'm watching some feeds come in of sheriff's department, deputies going door to door to door to make sure that the suspect's not holed up inside, looking in backyards to see if he's hiding under a tarp or cars. They were surrounding one home where they thought there might have been potential evidence. They were looking to see if there was a ping from the suspect's cell phone, if that could be any clue into where that suspect might be. We're gonna sign off for just a moment here on social media. We appreciate all of you weighing in.
We're just gonna stay with this.
Okay,
we're gonna sign off.
I'm gonna just stop talking for a minute. The reason for that is because we want to see if we can gain any insight on the neighbors who are seeing and get any witness statements here. So we're gonna listen in on this. I'll be right back.
No problem. Have a nice day.
Open up a little wider. No. Push in real quick and see if they went in. If did they go in? All right, come back out. Come back out. Open up. Open up. Open up. There you go. All right, you can push back in. Let us know if you're going live, studio. You were up so high for our signal. We'll try. Can you read that? 22938. So that's the address we had initially. Let's come down and read it. Come down to the right, see if we can't find a sign. It is really blurry though, our signal. I can't tell if it's my glasses aren't working right or what. Does Sycamore come to a dead end, runs north-south, and it comes to a dead end like that? It is Sycamore, right? Okay, we're not live, so you can push back in. Let's see if we can get them going in the house. It's up a ways. Up a ways. Right there. Let's make an orbit around this. Is that an officer right at the corner? Go left. Right there by the side of the house, by the garage. Oh, it's a trash can. Let's go around this way a little bit. Yeah, but we can't really report that, but he may be dead inside this house. The garage door is open. Or he may have been shot inside this house. I don't know. Yeah, just trying to see if there's anybody else in the home or. No, we're not saying the address, right? We're not going to report that. That could be the bedroom. Be careful here, because if they come to me real quick, we probably ought to pull out. No, you can stay on it until they say something. Come back around so we're in the front and I can see down in between the homes if need be. Open up, open up, open up your shot. Hold it right here. Open up a little more.
Before, 7's gonna hold it.
Station 9 effects is Santa Clarita with hour 40.
You turn yours down. Turn this down.
Yep. Hey everybody, Eric Connert here in the CBS News 8 newsroom right now. We are continuing to follow this very active scene northwest of Los Angeles at Saugus High School in Santa Clarita, where a suspect, a student at the school around 7:30, walked into that school of 2,300 kids and opened fire, injuring 5 people. One body was found in the choir room, as rushed to the hospital. Right now, we're watching the investigators surrounding a home not too far away from that high school. We know that suspect, after the shooting, took off and was running around a neighborhood. The schools were on lockdown. 20,000 kids in the school district, the William Hart School District, were on lockdown. Parents telling our affiliate in Los Angeles, the good news is they just had an active shooter drill not too long ago. And so they knew where to have a meeting spot. We've also been listening to other feeds. We've heard some of the students at Saugus High School telling some of the other reporters out there that the good news of the timing on this was that it happened in first period, so not as many kids were on campus. But again, 5 people were injured by this. 2 critically rushed to the hospital. 1 was airlifted because of their injuries. We've been watching the feed. The authorities surrounding a home not too far away from here. We have not heard whether they've taken a suspect into custody, if that suspect is alive, but we are continuing to monitor the sheriff's department's feeds as they come in. We do know it appears to be a school, a student at the school. An Asian man dressed in all black ran from the school, is what the latest report is telling us. So parents have been told to go to Central Park to pick up their students. This is at the William Hart School District. There's 20,000 kids that go to this school district. I mean, this is a huge school, and you can see the authorities there walking around, canvassing the neighborhood. I don't see them in as much of a rush as they were when they first got to this home. I'm not sure if they have detained someone inside, or they looked and there just was no one inside that home, but they are looking actively for this suspect as we speak. So this, again, if you're just joining us here on our Facebook live coverage of this shooting in Santa Clarita at Saugus High School, I'll give you the breakdown of what's happening, where the authorities are now in the investigation. 5 people were shot this morning inside Saugus High School around 7:30 in the morning. The shooter, wearing all black, described as an Asian student at the school, then ran away and into a neighborhood. The authorities quickly responded to the school, put the school on lockdown and the 20,000 other students in that district on lockdown. They got to the school. He was no longer there. They began canvassing the neighborhood, looking in bushes, trees, behind homes, inside homes. They surrounded several homes. At this point, they're surrounding one right now with a SWAT team. We've seen all the big guns coming out. We've seen a heavy police presence around a few other homes. They're looking for evidence. They're looking for this shooter. We do not know what kind of weapon was used. We do know that the 5 people were shot. We don't know if the people are all students, if they're all staff, but we do know that it's 5 of them, 2 of them in critical injuries, 1 of them flown to the hospital because their injuries were so severe. We've been watching our Facebook feeds, a lot of you weighing in, giving your thoughts, your prayers, a lot of you telling us you're frankly crying and that this is the worst case scenario, something you fear every day. As a parent, I sympathize with you. I have an 8, 6, and 4-year-old, and every morning before they go to school, I pray something like this doesn't happen. This isn't really too far away from us here in San Diego, right? 3 hours away, just northwest of Los Angeles. And here we are, another school shooting. Mitch, what are some of the people saying that are weighing in on our social pages? Yeah, a lot of people are just kind of saying their hearts are going out to the parents. And you can only imagine getting that text message that says your school's on lockdown because there's a school shooting that just happened. So we've been watching the feeds, getting some of the reaction from the parents. They're obviously just totally and completely speechless right now. Some of them don't know, where their kids are, so they're trying to reunite with their children. You see a lot of relieved parents when they do find their kids. So this is all unfolding. The latest school shooting happening here in Southern California, just northwest of Los Angeles. We've been seeing a lot of people weighing in here on social media as to giving their thoughts and prayers to the families involved here. So we will continue to monitor the social feeds. We're watching the Sheriff's Department updates here. I'm going to check one more time before we leave to gather a little bit more information, because we also want to leave you with the latest pictures and the interviews and the witness sound that's coming from the scene so that we can bring you the latest. So again, 5 people injured at Saugus High School in Santa Clarita. They were shot inside the school around 7:30 this morning. The suspect ran away wearing all black. It was a student that went to the school. They're looking for that suspect as we speak. As soon as we get new details, we will bring those to you. I'm watching an update from the school right now. It says, with the exception of Arroyo Seco and Saugus, all school lockdowns have now been lifted. We will send regular updates and encourage you to go to the school website, heartdistrict.org. So that's some good news. That means potentially that they have found the suspect, or at least they do not feel that the other schools are in a threat. 2 schools are on lockdown, Arroyo Seco and Saugus right now. So those are the 2 schools that remain on lockdown. But again, this is a district with 20,000 kids in it. All were on lockdown until just a few moments ago. They lifted that lockdown, except for those 2 schools. So we're going to continue to follow the feeds. We're going to try to gather more information. We've got a crew on the way. Alicia Summers is heading there to bring us the latest on air as well as online. We're going to get back with you here shortly as we gather more information. We will bring it to you live here on Facebook Live.
I don't know. I think they must have cleared the house, because if they would have shot him inside the house, they'd be in a long investigation. There's some officers on the top of your screen. We can show anything we want now. There's no way that they're worried about this guy. I don't think he was in the house. They didn't bring him out, and Do you know the name of the church and where they're taking the students? Can you give me that? Any idea what the name of this church is just south of school? Central Park must be off of, what is that, McBean? Yeah, right here, this major. That must be Central Park over there. Are we live? Is our picture live? Go to Central Park for me. Tilt up and just go up. I think that's McBean Parkway, if I'm not mistaken. Go to the left. Keep going. Push in right there to the park. I think that's the park. Okay, so I think that's Central Park. So confirm that street for me. Come back to the school buses and go to that intersection. I think I'm trying to figure out what that street is. No, just come towards us. It'll be hard to read it there. It's Bouquet Canyon. Okay, it's Bouquet Canyon. Just double check that's Bouquet Canyon for me so I don't make a mistake. Go left again real quick, I guess. See if we can find another cross street. Go back to that other one, see if we can read it there. I just thought it'd be easier here and we'd be back on location. That is Bouquet Canyon. Okay, come on back to the school. All right, if they come to me, we talk about the students being loaded. I talk about the house. Then I can talk about where they're taking them to Central Park and the congestion that Philip talked about. Okay. Very good. You got 5 down there? Does he know we're here? Make sure he knows. Looks like he's drifting south. He's going to be right underneath us in a minute.
7 high after left door.
What's that? We'll let him drift right underneath you and feel our pain. He'll get the idea when he's right underneath us.
Go for 7. Space 9FX Santa Clarita with our fuel. Base 9FX.
Absolutely. Okay. All right.
Yeah, not a problem. Sorry.
Open up a little bit. Where are the school buses? Okay, more of them coming in. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Eric Hunnert here in the CBS News 8 newsroom right now. We told you we'd be back with breaking developments in this breaking story that's happening in Santa Clarita, where a suspect around 7:30 this morning opened fire at Saugus High School. That's in Santa Clarita, 40 miles northwest of Los Angeles. Initially, we were told 5 people were shot and all being treated at the hospital. We have now been told it is 4 people who were shot. 3 of them are in critical condition. And this just in from Alex Villanueva. He's with the LA County Sheriff's Department. He just sent out a tweet updating all of us that the shooting suspect, the suspect that ran from the scene, has just been caught and is now being treated at a local hospital. So we don't know if that was from a self-inflicted gunshot wound or if they, in fact, opened fire on the suspect. They had been looking for him for quite some time. Again, this shooting happened at 7:30, and just now we are hearing that the suspect is in custody. He's being treated at a local hospital. He is accused, the gunman is accused of going into Saugus High School this morning and opening fire inside the school, shooting at students in first period. In fact, not all of the students had shown up in class yet So some of the teenagers that were talking to the reporters at the scene were saying there weren't actually that many kids at school because it was first period. Nonetheless, several of people were shot. We know 4 of them were hit. 3 are in critical condition. 4 are at the hospital, as is the suspect now. Initially, they had told us that they were looking for the suspect who went to the school, is a student at Saugus High School, was wearing all black. And after the shooting, he ran away from the scene. He was in the neighborhood. They were canvassing the neighborhood. And just moments ago, we can confirm from Alex Villanueva, the LA County Sheriff's Department, that they did in fact find that suspect. And he is in custody and he is being treated at a local hospital. So new details continuously coming into our newsroom here. We have a crew on the way. We've been hearing some of the statements from the students who have just been terrified this morning after they heard those gunshots inside their classroom. One of those students was found in the choir room, had to be rushed out and taken to the hospital. We know SWAT teams were converging on the neighborhood. They surrounded several homes. We know that one of the students told a news crew just a short time ago that, quote, it was absolutely terrifying because we couldn't tell where the shots were coming from. Boy, could you just imagine that? You're in school and you hear those gunshots ringing down the hallway and you don't know which way to run. In fact, some of the girls were telling one of the reporters, I was watching one of the feeds, telling the reporter that, look, we didn't know where it was going. We just ran out of the school and we just ran into the closest home we could find. So homeowners near the school had kids showing up that were just running away from the school in a panic. So again, the sheriff's department sounds like they do have the suspect they were looking for in custody. They had to bring him to the hospital because some sort of injury. We don't know if he was shot. We don't know if he shot himself. We don't know if he was shot by the authorities. What we do know is he was injured after he was apprehended by the sheriff's department. He has been taken to the hospital. He's accused of shooting 4 other people. We know that 3 of them are in critical condition. All 4 of them are being treated at the hospital right now. Many of you weighing in on our Facebook page and other social media platforms telling us your heart goes out to the families involved in this. We do know that this school, like many schools, even in the San Diego school district now, was prepared for this. In fact, recently they just had a drill, an active shooter drill. So a lot of the parents were well informed. They knew where to go, where to pick their kids up. That's sadly what we have to deal with this day and age, is doing these active training drills. We do these a lot. We have them done at my kids' school, and this is the reason why they do it, right? Is because if something like this, heaven forbid, should break out of school, you need to know as parents where to go, what the next steps are, and that is the case here at Saugus High School, where 4 people were shot, 3 in critical condition right now, a 4th also at the hospital, and the suspect now in custody and is also being treated for their injuries. We will continue to update you on all of our News 8 social media platforms with any new updates that we get coming out of Santa Clarita. For the meantime, we're going to sign off. We have a news crew on the way to the scene so that they can be live on air, digital, as well as on our social media platforms. And during the midday show, our 11 a.m. newscast, which will be coming up, we will have complete team coverage for you coming up on then. We'll be back on our social platforms here if we learn any new details.
because it all happened on the quad. Can you give me the numbers, because I keep hearing different? Is it four victims, 5 victims, 2 critical? Let's go over to Henry Mayo. Okay, let's go over to Henry Mayo. I'll find it for you. I think it's to the west. That might be right there, then I may be wrong. It's off of McBean. Yeah, it's over here. Hey, ER, are they taking our picture right now? Okay, we're making our way over to the hospital where some of the victims are being treated. And maybe the suspect. Hold. Go ahead. Go ahead, Des. 6 patients. 6 patients and 2 critical? I got it. I got it right up here, Matt. He's Adam's got it right now. I was right off of Henry. I think this is McBean right here. No, that's not. Three man. Hold on, you guys are both talking at the same time. 3 male, 3 female, and break down the critical. Sorry.
Check 1 2 2 2. Are you getting anything? 2 3 4 5. Good, good. Is it clean? Okay, thank you. Check 1 2 3 4 5. Testing, there's a mic and a line switch. So 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 4 5. Check, check. Audio check for media. 1 2 3 4 5. hopefully clean, crisp. A little hot. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. We're good. Check. 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 1, 2, 3.
as we kind of move out of the way as cop cars come here, Henry Mayo Hospital, where these victims were taken, confirming by tweet just moments ago that one female victim did die as a result of gunshot wounds sustained here at the school. They also went on to clarify some of the other victims. 2 male victims, they say, are in critical condition. Another male victim, they say, is also at this point going through surgery right now. All of this as, again, we're here outside this school, police inside. We have seen ambulances here stationed outside. Still unclear exactly what's going on inside and if there are other fatalities. But again, the local hospital where 6 of these victims were taken, confirming that at least one person inside this school at the time of this shooting has died as a result of injuries from gunshots.
Jonathan, you know, it really strikes me in just the past few hours watching our coverage, just over your left shoulder, you see all the houses there, just how this school is right in the midst of this residential neighborhood. What has it been like for those folks living so close to this school?
You can imagine a lot of anxiety. This is a close-knit that go to this school. So when this scene unfolded here, and at its peak, hundreds of cop cars here and first responders, there was a moment of what is going on, a disbelief that a school shooting happened right here in their backyard. And then, of course, fear, because this student, the suspected gunman, was at large and running around. And at that point, police had no idea where he was. There are still people gathered here right now waiting for any kind of information, any kind of word. We have spoken with parents who have been in touch with their children, but there are others that we have heard from that are still waiting to be reunited with their children and to find out what exactly has unfolded here and if their children are in fact safe.
Jonathan, I was surprised to hear some of the students say that they went to these neighboring homes to seek shelter when they heard the gunfire and the gunshot wounds, that people actually took them in. Was there a plan? Did the school have a plan in place to deal with these students in the event of a shooting? Have you spoken to students who have talked about that?
Yeah, and you can imagine just how intense it was, especially as this was first happening. This was when school was first starting, so a lot of students weren't even in their classrooms at the time. And you're right, kids were running into houses here. We also saw images of kids jumping over fences, those that were inside the school property but not actually inside their classrooms. Those that we spoke with, the students that were in their classrooms, did describe a very efficient plan that was put in place. This has been a school, like many schools around the country, that do these active shooting scenarios. And when the gunshots were heard, we heard from several students who said teachers instructed them immediately to take cover and to shelter in place. They locked the doors and they rode this out. You can imagine the terrifying moments, though, for those students both inside with teachers guiding them along, and then, of course, those that were lingering around waiting to go to class that had no idea really what to do and didn't have an authority figure, a teacher or anybody else instructing them on what to do. And that's what you ended up seeing, children who ran in whatever direction they thought was safest, in some cases to the homes that are right here in this neighborhood.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating to hear about the aftermath, and so many of us just try to learn and make sense of all of this. I want to bring in Jeff Pegues, who run us through, Jeff, sort of the steps now at this point. What will law enforcement be doing in the next following hours at this point?
Well, they're going to go through that home. They were able to zero in on where the suspect lives, so they're going to go through the home, look through if he has a cell phone, which most teenagers these days, they do. So you go through the cell phone to see what he was saying to people leading up to this incident. Also, does he have a computer, any sort of electronic device that they can scan for information, because they want to obviously know what the motive is. What was it that caused this person to do this at this school? And if you look at, we've reported on this recently, especially the Secret Service did an extensive, in-depth study on school shootings between 2008 and 2017. In the majority of these cases, the shooters or the people who carry out these incidents, sometimes they happen with a sharp object like a knife or something like that. But what the Secret Service found in the majority of these incidents is that often these are people who have been over the years bullied, for example, or could it be that there was a problem at home that this student has been living with, whether it's divorce, substance abuse, anything like that? So there's several different scenarios that they look at. But what the Secret Service found in this in-depth report is that there are some commonalities there that parents, school administration, administrators, law enforcement officials can look at to prevent these things from happening. Because when we talk about prevention, you know, when you look at law enforcement, they are reacting to these things happening. So the key now is try to figure out, well, what led up to this incident? And that's obviously what law enforcement will do as they try to search for a motive.
We have some reaction from students who were inside the school during the shooting. I want to play for you a little bit of what they had to say.
This morning, Saugus High School went into evacuation on a supposed active shooter. I was in my first period class when we supposedly heard shots being fired. We don't know if they were shots, but we heard a distinct sound, and we automatically went into lockdown mode.
And then what happened?
We went into protocol, turned off all the lights, locked all the doors, barricaded all the doors, and waited to be updated by sheriffs or school administration.
What was going through your mind during all this?
I wasn't expecting this today. That I never got to say goodbye to my parents.
We were like doing a lesson in my first period class, you know, my government class, we were doing a lesson, and all of a sudden we hear this distinctive sound outside, and so my teacher quickly sprang to his feet, got up, locked the door, asked one of the students to get the keys, and so we like reinforced it, and then we turned off all the lights, and then we got a bunch of desks and stuff, and then reinforced the doors, and we all just like stayed hidden.
Just a reaction of some of the students inside the school as the shooting took place. I want to bring back in Jonathan Vigliotti, who's on the ground just outside that school. Jonathan, what is the mood and the sense right now on the ground now that we are about 3 hours into this?
Yeah, even 3 hours into it, still a lot of anxiety, especially as you look at this scene. There are still ambulances that are here. We're starting to see some of them disperse now, but the cops are here. The area has been taped off. This vicinity here with the neighborhood surrounding this school is still part of this lockdown, as you can imagine, because of this police response. And there still is a sense of the unknown, what has actually happened inside of that school. We know of the 6 that were taken to the hospital. The one girl that the hospital has confirmed died as a result of gunshot wounds, but there still is a concern that there are other victims inside, possibly fatalities, as this investigation continues. But we've been watching as this neighborhood is just here, I mean, really just trying to figure out what has happened here and how things move from here. A lot of relief, obviously, from the fact that this suspected gunman has been taken into police custody, now being treated at the hospital with possibly self-inflicted gunshot wounds. But still, a close-knit community on edge, as who wouldn't be when you look at this scene right now unfolding here at a high school that has a great reputation in a great neighborhood, but like so many other high schools, has been struck by this kind of gun violence.
Yeah, so well said, Jonathan. I'm just curious, the students you've spoken to, have any of them said that they may have known who the suspect is or have any details about this situation?
No, and you know, and it's been a question that a lot of local reporters here have been asking, and at this point we don't have a sense of who this gunman is. We know the description that the Sheriff's Department has released, a 15-year-old, possibly Asian, dressed in all black, but nobody that we have spoken to or heard of has been able to identify or even say that they know who this gunman may have been. Of course, that's going to be the big question moving forward, and also possibly what his motive is, as Jeff was also talking about. We can tell you from the accounts that we've heard from students moving forward, interested in knowing what kind of weapon he was also using. They described not this rapid gunfire, but slow and steady gunshots. One student saying they just heard about 2 gunshots. So that's also going to be another question, how this student got a gun, what kind of weapon he was using, and how he got it into this school at the time to carry out this attack.
Jonathan Vigliotti on the ground there in Santa Clarita, California. We are standing by. We are expecting any moment now a live press conference from police there on the ground to give us an update on the situation and the aftermath. I want to bring back in Jeff Pegues as well. Jeff, we were talking a little bit about what the next few hours will be like for law enforcement. How do they coordinate on something like this? It's a local issue that obviously has garnered national attention.
Well, and I think I sound like a broken record when I say this, but they have gotten really good at coordination between local and federal. And Jonathan was talking about the weapon used in the incident. Well, that's where the ATF will come in, and they will be able to search to figure out how the weapon was purchased or how the suspect got his hands on that weapon. And so that's where you have the coordination between local. LA County Sheriff's Department is the lead on this investigation. So the ATF and the FBI will sort of take a step back, ask the local officials what they need in terms of support, and that's how they will coordinate. So, you know, what has happened over the years is that they've gotten really good at sharing information, because that is the only way to prevent these things from happening. But also, it serves to give these communities some sense of calm in terms of figuring out, well, what was it that led to this situation? Because there are going to be a lot of parents, a lot of school officials who are looking to answers to so many questions in the wake of something like this happening. And so that's where you have the experience of federal law enforcement officials, as well as, you know, LA County Sheriff's Department. That is an experienced, well-run Sheriff's Department in terms of responses to these kinds of incidents, so they know what they're doing, and you can kind of see that. What we're looking at here is a reunification process where they're trying to reunite students who are in the school with their parents, and it is a delicate process, because obviously you have all these teenagers who are concerned about their safety, and then on the other end you have the parents who just want to see their kids, and so you have this very controlled process that we see unfolding on live TV, at least from these pictures that we're seeing up above this reunification center that has been set up in a field.
Yeah, we've been watching the aerial shots. These are live images, I should tell everyone, that you're seeing on the left of your screen there. I want to play for you a little bit. We're getting some of the reaction of students at this high school and a little bit of how they felt and their thoughts shortly after this happened.
You were walking to school. What did you hear as you were getting close to campus?
It was just like 2 or 3 gunshots, and then like everyone started running out from the entrance.
And you didn't know at first it was gunshots. What did it kind of sound like at first?
It was just like a big balloon pop, but like super loud, and then like everyone started running, and like it was really scary. It happened all near like the gym and the quads, like right near the entrance when you walk in. That's what it would be.
And so at that time, were there a lot of people around? Do you know?
I know there was a good amount of people coming in, because that's like right when people get here to start school. Because like the first period starts once like maybe 15 minutes after when it happened, so everyone's starting to like come in.
I want to turn now to Jonathan Vigliotti, who's on the ground outside the school there. Jonathan, give us a sense right now of what you're hearing, and especially in the coming hours. My understanding was there were other schools that were also under lockdown. Are they still concerned? Do they believe that there was just one sole suspect at this point?
That's correct. A number of schools were on lockdown. From last word that we got, one local elementary school is still on lockdown, though we imagine that is going to be lifted at any moment now, as word has now gotten out from the Sheriff's Department that this suspect has been taken into custody. Here outside of Saugus High School, still a very heavy police presence, though we did see all the ambulances that were gathered right at the main entrance leave in the past few minutes or so, as we've been reporting to you throughout the past 20 minutes or so. We're not exactly sure what that means. The tape is still up. Police are still out here as they continue to also investigate what is actually unfolding inside. At this point, still unclear how many fatalities. We do know, as confirmed by the local hospital where 6 of the victims were taken to, 1 female victim did die as a result of gunshot wounds. There is a press conference that the Sheriff's Department is going to be holding shortly. We hope to learn a lot more information from that press conference. We've also seen, really in only the past 15 minutes or so, students in waves still being brought out. It has stopped in that period of time, but up until 15 minutes ago, hours after this shooting took place, we have seen hundreds of students who were inside sheltering in place being escorted to school buses and even public buses, which were taking them to that reunification area where parents are waiting anxiously to meet their children there. A lot is still unknown as this investigation continues. I think there is a sense of relief, though, that the suspect has been taken into custody. This area still on lockdown. We do believe that the elementary school in the area is still part of that lockdown, but that lockdown should be lifted for them shortly, and it's still unclear when the lockdown in this area will be lifted.
Yeah, and Jonathan, as you mentioned, at the bottom of the screen there, folks can see we are standing by waiting that police news conference where we might hopefully learn more details potentially about the suspect, the victims, and what the plans are for the school and this area as well. Jeff Pegues, I want to turn back to you in our Washington bureau. When you see something like this, there is always the fear of copycats. What's happening in communities across this nation, particularly with law enforcement? Should other schools be concerned?
I think in this day and age, other schools are already concerned. We don't have to see another one of these incidents for school officials all across the country to be concerned. This is something, sadly, that they have to train for, and they have been doing it. What we've found based on the people that we've talked to on this subject, and we've done extensive reporting on this subject, what is now a focus of law enforcement is how to give parents, school administrators, public officials the signs to know what to look for before one of these incidents happens, because, obviously they're happening. We see them happening almost weekly, and that's a really sad situation. But the fact of the matter is, the focus now is, well, how can we give people the tools that they need so that when they see something that is potentially concerning, they notify school officials or they share that information with law enforcement? Because, if you look at Parkland, Florida, for example, and the school shooting there were missed signs, and you'll have law enforcement, you'll have school officials, parents acknowledging that. So then how do you build from that? And the thing is to give people little things that they can notice in a student's behavior, for example, that they can then take to someone, share that information. It does not mean that so-and-so will get in trouble with law enforcement or school officials, but it's just more information that can be shared in a community to prevent scenes like this from unfolding. Because as I said earlier, law enforcement can respond in under 2 minutes, but you're still going to have bloodshed, and that appears to be what happened here today. Law enforcement was quick on the scene, but you still had bloodshed. So you then have to look at, well, how do we prevent these situations from escalating to this point where we're talking about it on television? And that's what this Secret Service study, and there have been other studies as well, but that is the latest and what the Secret Service believes is the most in-depth, because what they have done is they use the techniques, the analytics that they use in preventing threats to public officials. The Secret Service, most people think about that agency and they think, well, this is the agency that covers public officials, is in charge of the safety of the president. So what they've done is they've taken the analysis that they use to prevent threats from reaching someone that they protect, for example, a president, and they're using that type of analysis to try to prevent these types of school shootings from happening. So long story short, that's where the focus is right now, because, Rena, you and I have probably lost count of the number of school shootings, unfortunately, that we've had to cover over the last several years. And there is that concern about potential copycat scenarios. And so that is something that law enforcement is aware of, too. And again, it just really puts the onus on people in the community to speak up when they say something, to call the FBI or local police when they see a troubling sign, maybe a student who appears to be descending into some sort of distress that may ultimately play out into a situation like this because there is access to a weapon, or there is something that they've said that they've written in a diary or on a piece of paper or in a text. So there are always these signs out there. And, if you look at law enforcement, when it comes to terrorism, they've said, if you see something, say something. Well, now that applies to these situations, too.
If you're joining us now, we're following the ongoing shooting attack that took place. That is now, police say that they do have a suspect in custody. We know one female patient has died. 2 other male patients are in critical condition, and 1 male patient is in good condition. I want to thank Jeff Begay joining us from Washington, or Jonathan Vigliotti, who remains on the ground there outside of that high school. We are standing by, awaiting any moment now a press conference where police will hopefully be able to update us with new details. But for now, I want to take you back to our live coverage of CBSN Los Angeles for the very latest.
Things like that, and that got us to the residents. So what's the current concern now? I know we're going to hear from you in just a moment, but what's your current concern right now?
The current what?
Current concern right now.
Well, my concern is I want to let the parents know that their kids are okay. The affected students, they've already been identified. Their parents have been notified, and they're on scene with their loved ones. The remaining students are fine and well. It's just a question of matching the students with their parents. The other schools in the area that were locked down as a precaution, that's going to be up to the local school district to release them back to normal operations. But the threat now has been eliminated.
All right, Sheriff Villanueva, we thank you so much for joining us. We know you got a news conference that's about to get underway at some point, so we'll see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff. We're going to go to Candace Crone, who is at the hospital treating the victims and unfortunately also announced that one of the victims has died. Candace?
That's right, Suzanne. We're here at the Henry Mayo Hospital in the media room where we are expecting a press conference at 11 a.m. We just learned that information. I want to bring in Patrick Moody now, who is the PIO. What can you tell us, if you could go over again, the victims that are here?
So we've received 4 patients here. I'm sorry to say that one patient is deceased, a female. We have 3 male patients here. 2 are in critical condition and 1 is in good condition.
And I know you are not able at this time to confirm if the shooter is here, but if you could give us a general idea, is this the main hospital in this area where in a situation like this, the victims would be brought here to this location?
So I can't confirm that the shooter is here. We are the only hospital in the Santa Clarita Valley. We are a trauma center, so we're equipped for this kind of thing, but that's as far as I can confirm.
And for a situation like this, I know you said the hospital is staffed, but they also have practices and drills and things like that. Give us some information on that.
So we have an incident command center that we set up when things like this happen. We drill for that 2 or 3 times a year. We have a disaster response team that holds those drills, helps us practice so when it happens, we're prepared.
And who can we expect to hear from at 11 a.m. and what sort of information can we expect to get?
So Dr. Larry Kidd, K-I-D-D, he's the chief clinical officer for the hospital, and he should be able to give you more information on the patients and their status.
Okay, thank you so much. I know your phone is ringing, so it's very important that you get that. But as you just heard, a news conference here at 11 a.m., Dr. Larry Kidd, who is the chief clinical officer, he's going to be giving us some details on the patients. At this point, we know that 1 female has died. 3 males are still being treated. 2 are critical. 1 is in good condition. Those first patients started coming into the hospital around 8:30 this morning, and so it's been all hands on deck since Patrick was saying that since it's not a larger sort of shooting, thankfully, that they do have enough resources here at the hospital so they don't have to call neighboring hospitals and nurses and doctors and things like that. So they are prepared. They have enough resources here to treat the victims. So that's the very latest. Of course, as soon as we get more updates, we'll bring them to you. Back to you.
All right, Candace, thank you.
We're going to give you the latest numbers on this shooting. 1 female patient has been confirmed dead, as Candace just mentioned. 5 people have been injured. 2 are in critical condition. We don't have a number on teachers or students, but according to one of the students there, they said a teacher was wounded. The shooter is in custody. Sheriff Alex Villanueva would not describe the extent of the injuries, but he did say the threat is over. And the shooter, we know, is a 15-year-old male who was a Saugus High School student.
All right, Tina Patel is on the scene as well. Tina, what do you have for us now?
Yeah, we are at the church that's just down the street from the high school, and Adam's with me. He is a bishop here. He's also a parent. And you were saying that you actually have classes with some Saugus High School students in the morning. That was happening right then, right?
Yeah, we offer seminary classes for all of the youth, high school students. And they're typically the hour before high school starts. So we had about, at 7:30 this morning, about 50 students, and they were in 3 different classes.
And your daughter was one of those.
Yeah.
So was she the one that first told you something was happening, or was somebody else?
Yeah, I was on my way to work. I'm a professor at College of the Canyons, and my daughter was in one of those 3 classes and texted me. She had tried to get a hold of her mother first, but she wasn't available, and so I told her to stay calm and to stay here with the teachers in the building, to not go to do anything or leave.
And then when you were coming over here, I mean, what was your thought process? I'm sure you're holding, like we said, a couple different positions because you're a father, but then you're also a bishop and you want to be kind of help.
Yeah. Well, actually, I started to teach my first class at the college. I got halfway through it and couldn't focus, and my wife was calling me on the phone, and so I just had to cancel a class and come here and just help out, make sure that everybody was okay, getting on the buses to head over to Central Park. And we're kind of a sanctuary here. We had hundreds of students come from the high school here on their way to the buses and to the park. So just helping out.
And I know it's so chaotic, but can you talk about kind of what you were seeing, how students and how staff were kind of emotionally processing what they saw, what they witnessed?
Well, I think everybody was shaken. From what I understand, this event happened in either the chorus or band room at the high school, and two of our students who go to church here were in the adjacent room and heard the shots. And so I've been sending an email to members of the church just to ask them to stay calm and to be helpful to each other. You know, it's been a little difficult. We just had the fires last month, and half of our congregation was under a mandatory evacuation, and so we just were hustling around making sure everybody was okay during that. And then to get hit with this morning is kind of devastating. So I think it's, you know, people are nervous.
Sure. You and I were just saying that this is a school that had been going through drills. Having this happen, I'm sure you never thought that those skills would have to be in use, but how are you feeling about that now, the fact that there was some preparation?
Yeah, there was. We appreciate the teachers and the emergency preparation that's been happening. I think that helps people. You know, there's the duck and cover and stay in place and active shooter and block the doors. And so, you know, we have prepared for this, and thank goodness, perhaps it could have been worse than it is.
I appreciate you joining us. I think that what he was saying is what we all know is that there is one part that is happening today, and of course the focus on the people that are in the hospital that are injured. But I think that all of this community has been affected, and that process of recovering and trying to deal with what happened today and what people witnessed is going to be a long process. But this community seems very tight-knit, and they seem like they are really looking out for each other. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Tina, thank you. Earlier, we got a chance to speak with some students who had just left the school, and they told us about what a friend had saw. Let's listen in.
I know a few of the girls, they saw it happen, and they turned over, and they just saw him pull it out. And
they were crying, and they said that they saw two people go down.
Yeah, we all went silent, and it took us a minute to process, like, that we need to run.
Yeah, and it was just, you never, like they said, you never think that it's going to happen to you, and then it does, and then you get this gut feeling, and you're absolutely terrified because you don't know what's going to happen. Because just the sound of the gun is just so, like,
it was too real.
It was too real. It was too terrifying, and it was horrible. It was horrible.
Suzanne, I don't even want to know what it's like to even experience this.
And what's so sad, it shows how close-knit, not just the community, but also just Southland in general. The young lady on the right is the stepdaughter of one of our photographers. Her name's Hannah, and she's on the swim team. Her little brother is on the band at Saugus High, and we do know that, we don't know if he's sheltered in place, but we do know members of the high school band were under lockdown, and they were stuck inside of the room. You can see all of the backpacks at the scene. This is one of the locations where they were treating somebody earlier this morning. We saw a fire official doing chest compressions on somebody.
Yeah, in situations like this, a lot of times they tell them to drop your backpacks, leave everything where it is so they can see everything on your person, and have your hands up when they're having you escort from the high school there. But that was also something that was pretty tough to watch and take in when we saw first responders trying to treat one of those victims there with CPR on the scene earlier this morning. It's now 10:35. We are awaiting a news conference. I was expected to start at 10 first, and now it's 10:30, and it should be starting at some point now, possibly 11 o'clock, which means they're still, you know, trying to dot their I's and cross their T's with what has now become a massive investigation as a result of this school shooting here at Saugus High School. If you're just now joining us, we do know that one of the victims that was injured in this incident has now died from her injuries. The age and name not released at this hour. Of course, they're still probably trying to reach next of kin and make sure that they have all of that together. But the shooter is now in custody and also, suffered some injuries. The sheriff wouldn't quite elaborate on what injuries, but of course he did say that that shooter is now in custody and was apparently 15 or 16? 15 years old.
Remember, we talked to a neighbor who said he saw somebody leaving the area who appeared to be bleeding from their heads. So we don't know if that was the shooter for sure, but he said he heard helicopters right over his house on Sycamore Lane, and that's the street where the shooter allegedly lived. Yeah, that's according to some of the people who know of the shooter there and may have gone to school with him there. But we still have a number of people who are being treated at the hospital. One, I believe, is still in critical condition. I believe the sheriff had confirmed that for us. So it's still a dire situation. Candace Crone is there at the hospital, and she's been speaking with officials as well. But this was, 2,300 students? Then when you add in the staff and teachers and other school officials, roughly nearly 3,000 people were on campus at the time early this morning, especially for those who had first period. So this was the beginning of a school day, what was supposed to be just a normal day for these kids. And I have a tweet here from Under Sheriff Tim Murakami with the LA Sheriff's Department. This is something parents aren't going to want to hear, but they'll also understand. He's saying we need to interview every student at Saugus High School before they can be released to their parents. He said we need to conduct a thorough investigation and apologizes for the wait. So you can imagine, you said the number, more than 2,000 students. They have to interview everyone. It's also an important conversation for parents to have with their children. I have seen some texts from some of my parent friends, and they said that their kids had heard about talk of a school shooting, but it's casually spoken about because people talk about school shootings, that it seemed like the kids hadn't really taken the threat seriously. And in the aftermath, now you have an entire school where the kids are traumatized. All of them have to be interviewed. So that's something that parents should be talking about with their kids tonight, that if you ever see a threat, even if it seems like a joke, just tell an adult, because we could prevent something like that. I could hear from Sheriff Alex Villanueva's voice that he was so frustrated and heartbroken that this isn't the kind of situation they want to be dealing with. They'd rather talk to or get somebody in custody who might pose a potential threat instead of dealing with the aftermath. And here's a tweet from authorities who wanted to basically talk to every student. And of course, she said her parents had wanted to know why. Well, they said why every student ? They could either be a witness or provide important information about the shooter or a possible motive. So that's why they want to talk to just about every student to see if there was some type of encounter. And you talked about how the kids, participate in Snapchats and these group chats and on social media and text groups as well. And how someone mentioned that they may have, been made aware of something like this possibly happening this morning, which is frightening because whenever you hear something like that, you don't want to play, especially in this day and age. If a coworker or a student or something like that says something crazy, I'm going to shoot up a place, you want to immediately go to the authorities. Yes, and this is what we're dealing with now. One young lady, or we've heard, has passed away today. We don't know if it's a teacher or a student for sure, but I think the clinic did release that information. We have several people who are being treated for gunshot wounds, and the suspect, the only silver lining here is that the shooting threat is over. But now, of course, we're dealing with the aftermath and a community that will be forever changed. It reminds me back when we were dealing with the school shooting in Thousand Oaks. At the time, it was one of the safest communities in the country. And of course, it was a scene of a terrible shooting. So every community is never safe, no matter how safe it seems on the outside. Just one person can create this much destruction. Yeah, what a crime scene here. We were watching it this morning. Again, just this whole area that was sort of swarmed by police officers who were trying to get the situation under control. Right now, let's hear from parents of a student who basically witnessed the shooting.
Screaming and crying, saying that there's a shooting going on in her school, and the shooter went by her, and she heard a couple shots, and the teacher threw her and her girlfriend into a closet. And I says, okay, Mija, slow down, relax. I go, we're on our way. Are you okay? And she says, yeah. I go, okay, hold on. And she goes, let me talk to your mom. So Kim got on the phone and says, look, Lexi, hang up the phone now. I don't want anyone, like, if there's a shooter, anyone to know you're, because she's screaming and crying. And we're on our way. And we get here, and it's a war zone. It's the phone call you don't want to get. You just, you know, you don't even, it's kind of like you're in a blur. So, and I didn't get the whole story. That's just probably a 2-minute phone call, but it seems like forever, but it was very blurry, so.
Hey, you have to tell your child to hang up the phone, not even knowing if that's the last time that you will hear from them, because you don't want the shooter to know that your child is on the phone calling.
Just can't imagine what he's going through. Our Cara Finstrom is joining us now. Cara.
Over here, so.
We have one of the students here, Shauna, with us, who just reunited with her dad. We are still waiting for the sheriff to arrive and to begin a news conference here with the latest information. But Shauna, what can you tell me about what happened in your classroom this morning? Were you in a classroom?
Yeah. So I was in class just doing my work as usual, and all of a sudden I heard loud pops, loud bangs, a sound like I never heard before. And then 2 seconds later, there were people sprinting, screaming. Some were even laughing. That's why it didn't ever process into our head until 2 students came into our room saying someone has a gun. So we locked the room, and then nothing really processed into my head. I just ran to the other side of the room, got down, just was confused, like a state of shock, and I still am in a lot of state of shock. I just can't believe that this is happening right now.
And you were just reunited with your dad. Were you texting him throughout this?
I have been texting my parents, and I was telling them exactly where we were. Like, I'm in line, I'm waiting to get sent, show them my ID, and yeah, I'm just so thankful to see them right now.
We know that there are sheriff deputies and a lot of authorities over there. Did they speak with you before each of you was released, and what happened during that process?
Oh, yeah. So my classroom was in the far end of campus, so we were the last to be evacuated. But they came in, they told us, like, everything's okay. I'm so thankful for them right now. I feel really blessed to have such amazing people working with us. They just made everything so calm, and they were really there for us, and they were really caring when they talked to us. And they made the situation way more relaxed. They weren't pressuring us to do anything or to say anything. I just feel a lot more comfortable with them by our side.
We know that there were some students who were shot. Have you heard anything from your fellow students? What were you told by the authorities there before you were released?
I haven't really been told anything. I just know that some girls and some boys have been shot. I really don't know their names or anything at the moment.
And the shooter, the suspected shooter, do you know anything about him?
All I know is that he's the same grade as me. I really don't know anything about him.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. If we pan over, you can see all of the families now starting to walk this way. There was a huge crowd of them, DeMarco and Suzanne, in the parking lot just right next to where we are set up. I see you guys hugging each other.
Yeah.
Are you okay? Yeah. Would you mind speaking with us a minute? Can we bring your son in as well? Yeah. Yeah.
It's so scary.
We're with. Yeah. Oh, they're about to come to us. What is your name, ma'am?
Ilea.
What is it?
Ilea.
Ilea is joining us now and is quite shaken up here because she's with her son. Tell us a little bit what is going through your mind right now. You were just reunited with him.
Yeah, I was terrified. I had just dropped him off at school this morning. He has a first period, so he gets there at 7 o'clock. And I went home and picked up my other daughter, and she was at Arroyo Seco. And then I got the call that there had been a shooting at the school, and my husband's deputy also, so he got the call. So we were both frantic. He wasn't answering his phone, and I finally got a text through to him a while later, and he said, "I'm okay, don't worry, we're on lockdown in the library, and I'll let you know what's happening." But for like 2 hours, it was terrifying, and not knowing, what was happening, not hearing from your child. It's the most terrifying thing in the whole world. And just being able to hold him again, it was like the best thing.
And you've been holding on to your mom. What has been running through your head? And actually, first, even before you get there, walk us through what happened to you today, because you were on lockdown for hours.
Yeah, my friends and I were hanging out because marching season is over, so we were just hanging out. And we were practicing for auditions for concert band, and some of the kids were outside and they heard shooting and ran outside and told my band director, Mr. Witt, there was a shooting. So Mr. Witt locked the door, said everyone go into the music library or a different room and stay quiet, turn off your phones, and yeah.
And what have you, both of you, learned? I know there were some students who were shot. Where are your hearts? Where are your thoughts right now?
My heart goes out for all the parents, because I couldn't imagine getting a phone call being told that something happened to my child. It's the worst, like just not knowing. I mean, good thing that he's okay, but I couldn't fathom ever somebody telling me that my child was gone or hurt or involved in this. And we live in such a wonderful community. It's such a shock. It's a complete shock that this happened.
And for you, these are your fellow students. How are you wrapping your mind around this right now?
I think at the moment just try to stay calm, but also worry at the same time for the people who got hurt.
You guys are beautiful together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Couldn't imagine getting a phone call being told that something happened to my child. It's the worst, like just not knowing. I mean, good thing that he's okay, but I couldn't fathom ever somebody telling me that my child was gone or hurt or involved in this. And we live in such a wonderful community. It's such a shock. It's a complete shock that this happened.
And for you, these are your fellow students. How are you wrapping your mind around this right now?
I think at the moment just try to stay calm, but also worry at the same time for the people who got hurt.
You guys are beautiful together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
All right, Cara, thank you very much. That was pretty tough for a little bit of all of us to listen to, and to also see that her son, she wanted the best for her son, and you see her son comforting her. Which is just tough because she had no clue. He wasn't answering his phone and his text messages when she was trying to reach out to him. So that's just one mom out of the hundreds of mothers and fathers who have had to rush to the scene, and some who still have yet to reconnect with their children.
Yeah, when we look at these backpacks of all of the students who scattered, I'm sure a lot of those backpacks have phones, because just parents on our staff are having a hard time getting in contact with their kids. So anytime any school goes on lockdown, you're just going to have chaos going through your mind, but also fear. And these are the parents where their kids are okay. They weren't injured. Yeah. Whereas there are parents right now dealing with their children in the hospital. And at least for one young lady, or we don't know the age, I just keep thinking of students. A female has lost her life today because of this shooting at Saugus High School.
Which is the worst thing that could come when something like this happens. We have more sound now from students who were basically inside the building at the time.
It was just scary because, you never think this is going to happen to you. And, you always see this stuff in, movies and other campuses on the news, but it was very scary. I never really knew what to do in a situation like this.
I wasn't expecting this today. I never got to say goodbye to my parents.
And not knowing that could possibly be the last time that you hear from your parents or your kids. We just heard from a father whose told us that his wife had told his daughter, who was inside the school, who had witnessed the gunshots and saw the shooter, that, hang up the phone, so the shooter won't hear you, won't see you. Hang up the phone, not knowing that that could be the last time that you talk to your child.
Yes, all of these stories coming out and hearing about students texting their parents to call 911. I'm sure there's just countless stories and just so much stress going through so many families right now. And they did announce, the LA Sheriff's Department, that they will be interviewing every student. So that's going to be a laborious process. That means that kids will have to go through an interview before they're released to their parents. So they're saying they know it's going to take a while. Just please be patient, because they're trying to get as much information as they can to try to figure out what happened here, but also, every time one of these happens, to try and help prevent the next shooting, which we've covered too many of these.
Yeah, and that's a crime tape wrapped around that area. This is where it started, pretty much, where we had seen a large presence of law enforcement in that same area where they were working on one of the victims. I'm sure this is now an area that they're focusing on, and just want to learn more about the student and what type of activities he was involved in, especially with the band room being one of the centers of the investigation, the band room and the choir where one of the victims was found. And then we had a number of students that we were told by a parent that had still been locked into that area, and then Sheriff Villanueva confirming that there are still students on the campus right now as we speak who have not been allowed to leave. So imagine being the parent of those children and you haven't been able to get in contact with them because their phones may be in their backpacks.
Yes, unfortunately, the parents of the victims may not even know if their child is sheltered in place at the high school still, because as we heard from the sheriff, it's going to take a while to even evacuate the school. It's not totally evacuated yet. We're looking at Saugus High and the crime scene there. But if you haven't heard from your child, of course you fear the worst. You hope for the best, but you don't know. So I'm sure for a lot of parents, it's this terrible thing of, do you go to the reunification center or do you go to the hospital?
And I want to learn more about this victim. We haven't been given a name yet, but just from our digging and stuff and some of the pictures that we won't be able to show our viewers just yet until we get a confirmation. But, I just want to learn more about this student who was apparently troubled. I mean, you have to be a troubled person to do something like this, but just want to hear the stories around this person, and then being the fact that, one of your sources had, mentioned that they may have been talking about him in a group chat, the kids.
Yes, I was shown a text that they were saying that he posted on Snapchat last night talking about shooting up multiple schools, and he was identified as a 15-year-old Asian male. When they were looking for somebody earlier today, they said he was wearing a black hat, black shirt, and blue jeans. We're going to go back to Candace Crone, who was at the hospital. Candace?
Yeah, Susanna, since our last hit, we've learned that the news conference here has been moved to 11:15. They want to get the initial news conference started first at 11, so ours will take place around 15 minutes after that. But what we do know, as we've been mentioning, is that one female is deceased, 3 males still being treated, 2 critical, 1 in good condition. Now, I spoke to a hospital official earlier who told me, thankfully, this was not a mass shooting. Sadly, of course, our hearts go out to the victims' families. But in that instance, they're able to, they have enough resources here today to take care of the patients. And so they don't have to call in additional staffing and doctors and whatnot. They are equipped. I also learned that they prepare for something like this. They do drills so that in the instance that there is a shooting like what we saw today, they are prepared. So again, that news conference is set to start at 11:15. That's the latest. I'll send it back to you guys.
And hey, Candace, I'm sure we'll learn during the news conference here at the hospital, but do we know if any of the victims were students, and do we know if that female victim was a student that died?
Yeah, at this point, DeMarco, we don't know if the victims are students or if they're teachers. We've asked a couple times, and the hospital, that's what we're expecting to learn, hopefully at 11:15. There's also been reports that the shooter is here at the hospital. I asked that as well, and they're still working out those details. But this is the main hospital here in this area, so it's very likely, DeMarco.
All right, Candace, thank you. We'll see you in just a moment.
We're going to go back to Cara, who is near the reunification center. Cara?
It was around like 7:30, yeah.
Okay, and we're just talking now with Michael Yu. He is a senior here, his mother, who was just reunified with here at the park. Michael, talk to us about when you first realized something was wrong this morning.
So I was in the band room, and I saw a girl running in saying that there was a shooting. And then I didn't hear exactly what she said, or I didn't hear any gunshots that I know other people probably did. But after that, then our band director told us to run into, we have these other rooms inside of the band rooms. So we ran into, like, there's a music library and there's an office. Half of us ran into the music library, the other half ran into his office. And we stayed there for about like 30 minutes to 40 minutes after the police came in and told us to like remain calm and that they were there. And then after, we were escorted into the choir room, which is connected to the band room.
So you waited until police actually got to you. You guys did not try to venture out?
No, we didn't try because we're all there's about like 40 or 30 of us in that one room. So we didn't try looking out. We just stayed put.
I know that there has been a lot of training. None of this prepares you for what you went through today. What was the discussion amongst the students as this was happening and amongst your teacher?
It was a lot of panic because when this sort of thing happens, because even though you're prepared for it, you can't really be prepared for it. It doesn't really feel like real, and it still hasn't set in with me that it happened. Yeah.
And I want to bring Mom in. Mom, I know you said you're still in shock. This is your baby, you told me. When did you find out, and how long ago did you just, it was just minutes ago that you got to see him for the first time?
He texted me while I was at work, and he texted me about what was going on, and I think there were a couple of times when they had a lockdown in the school, so I just told him, don't panic, it's going to be okay, because I didn't want it to freak him out. But still, it was very scary. And he kept texting me that he was okay, and he kept telling me, I love you, and that just kind of got me more emotional and worried, because what if this is, a lot of things go through your mind. Yeah. And then I turned on the news and it was all over the news. Yeah.
When did you know that he was okay?
When I saw him until I followed the bus, and then I saw him get off the bus, and when I saw him, then I knew that he was okay. It was, you are never settled until you actually see for yourself that he's okay, right?
And have you, you have other children? Have you been getting texts from all of your family members?
All of my family members. Actually, my daughter works for a school. She's a teacher, so she's like also very, she's panicked. She's crying on the phone because it could always happen at, you don't want to think about it. It could always happen at her school too. So she was, she's very freaked out. And
we're so glad that you're back with your son, and I can see him supporting you, holding your hand there. What are your thoughts for these other families?
I do feel, I'm glad a lot of his friends, almost all of his friends are okay, but, something does have to be done. We could pray for them, we could feel sorry for them and feel for them, but nothing is changing. And, he only has one more year of high school and, college, but what about, my sister has a very young son, and I feel for.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today. We really appreciate it, both of you. DeMarco, Suzanne.
Thank you so much, Cara, reporting live at the scene. We have been following breaking news all morning long. Thank you for watching a special edition of CBS 2 News at 11 a.m.
All right, folks, here's what we know at this hour. There had been a shooting at Saugus High School. It started at around 7:30 this morning. We do know that 5 people have been injured as a result. Those are the latest numbers. One female patient, unfortunately, is now confirmed dead. We do know that the 15-year-old shooting suspect is also in custody, and a number of schools were placed on lockdown, affecting 23,000. Now it's down to 2 schools that are still currently on lockdown. We still have students inside Saugus High School that are still there as a result of this investigation. But we do know that one of the victims in the shooting was found inside the choir room, the band and choir room area. That's where about 50 students still remain as a result of this investigation.
And we're awaiting a news conference that we expect to start in less than 10 minutes, around 11:10. But we're going to return to our Tina Patel, who's at the ground on the scene. Tina?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of students are now getting reunited with their parents, being let out, and one of them is Emily Ellis. She's with me. She's a 9th grader at the school. So tell me where you were when all of this happened.
I was in the bathroom with my best friend, and we walked out of the classroom and realized that there was bags everywhere and everyone left, and we thought class started. And then a vice principal opened the office door and was like yelling at us to get into a classroom. And so we ran to the office and we just stayed there.
So you and I were just saying, when you get in the office, people are kind of explaining what happened. Yeah. But what did you think when you heard there might be somebody with a gun?
I didn't know it. Like, still right now, it's hard for me to process, and it was just shocking that could just happen anywhere.
And you and I were saying that you guys have done drills, but did it feel like you knew what to do, or did it still kind of feel just like, I have no idea what's going on, I'm not sure?
It felt like I knew what to do, but it was like more of a panicked state of, oh, this is happening, like this is actually a thing that could really happen. So.
And you were just showing me videos on your phone that you took. You were in the office, so you were with people. Yeah. But describe what it was like, because it looks like it was dark. You said there were sirens going?
Yeah, they had like the fire alarms going off, and they had like people outside. And when we were sitting there for like maybe 3 hours, and when they finally let us out, they were like saying like they're like the police officers, they were making sure that like everyone was safe and stuff. But I had no idea what was going on myself.
What did you do for 3 hours, kind of basically in hiding?
Comforting my friends, because one of them, her friend got shot. So like I was just helping like her because she was like having a mental breakdown, and I was trying to help my friend because
you couldn't go anywhere. So you're just getting information through text from other people in other parts of the school.
Yeah, so it was just really overwhelming.
You're here with your dad now. You were telling me you were trying to keep him informed, but so many people going through this at the same time, like, it was hard to get information.
Yeah, because the Wi-Fi kept cutting out, and like I was just trying to text as many people as possible, trying to get as much information as possible. So
I know that you're okay, and I know that's great. Do you even know what you do from now on? How you as a school move on from something like this? How you heal from something like this?
I genuinely don't know myself. I mean, I'm just gonna have to see like what happens and just go on from there.
I appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad that you're safe. Good luck to you. As we said, guys, there are a lot of people, parents and students, that are still processing this. I mean, it just happened a few hours ago, and when I was talking to Emily's dad, she said, he said he's very relieved that she's okay, but then almost feels bad that he's relieved because he knows there are other families who are still going through so much, and I think a lot of people in the community, still trying to process, still trying to understand, and still trying to pray for those who are still in the hospital and trying to recover. We'll send it back to you.
It is a lot to take in, Tina. Thank you very much. I want to turn it over now to Leslie Marin. She is actually in the neighborhood near where the suspect actually lives. Leslie, what do you have for us?
I don't know nothing. Don't ask me. DeMarco, if you can see behind me, I'm going to push back here. It's really tight space that we're dealing with. You can see we are on Sycamore Creek and Mulberry Glen Lane. I believe this is an older neighborhood here in Santa Clarita. This is also where we believe maybe this suspect may live with his family. Down the street here, you can see there are several investigators. We have been told that the FBI is on scene here. This is where we also saw many tactical teams earlier this morning. I do want to bring in a resident here, Jose. Jose, how are you?
Fine.
I understand you were here when you started hearing helicopters and tactical team come in here right around 8 this morning. What exactly did you see or did you hear?
Just him right there. Whatever. He was a fixed helicopter that they stay in the same position. And that called my attention to why he was doing that. I thought it was a fire, but then all of a sudden it was traffic go up and down, all law enforcement, different agencies. Like I said, local law enforcement is the sheriff, and then there were the ATF and FBI in their jackets, not that many. About 3 or 4 at the most.
Can you point out to us what home you believe that the authorities are looking at right now?
Well, now from here it's a little bit harder to see, but you see where is some people in the back of some van or some SUV. Right there is the house.
And you have seen authorities, like you said, all sorts of agencies out there investigating. Have you seen them go in the home? Have you heard any type of explosive or anything this morning?
No, nothing. No. I can say there's not a lot of action going on, or police action of any kind. It's just a lot of people going up and down.
I know earlier you did see a photo of what is believed to be the shooter. Mm-hmm. Do you recognize this family? Did you recognize this kid?
I recognize the kid, but as I said before, it's just some kid that I see occasionally, going up and down the street or playing with a ball or something like that, but nothing that makes him be different or just a regular kid.
Okay, thank you so much, Jose, for talking to us. As you can see, authorities still out here. We are told that residents are allowed to leave their homes right now, but they will not be allowed to come back. We're not sure how long police will be out here investigating, but of course you can assume it's going to be for several hours. Now, there have been reports that the sheriff is now investigating possible social media posts that the suspected shooter may have made, alluding to this shooting on social media. The undersheriff confirming that they are investigating whether or not that is true. But back out here, obviously, this investigation going on, these residents having quite the morning. DeMarco, Suzanne.
Oh, my. All right, Leslie, thank you.
We're going to return to Amy Johnson, who is talking to students out there. Amy?
Suzanne and DeMarco, we are right outside of the school, and we're talking to Ryan Paya. He's a student here on campus. Ryan, explain to us what you heard and what you saw this morning.
So I was walking to school, and I heard like about 2 or 3 gunshots, and then I didn't know what was happening until I saw everyone running the other way. So I started following them, and then I ran to Albertsons.
And what were the students saying that were running away from the school?
They were saying that there's a shooter outside. They heard gunshots. So I was like, oh, this is pretty serious. So I should start following them. Yeah.
Now, you also told me that there was some type of post online from a student. Tell me about that post.
So we found an Instagram account saying that, like in their bio, it said that like, Saugus, have fun at school tomorrow. So I got like speechless and I didn't know what to do. Yeah. So I reported it to the police.
And if you can, just give me an idea. The media showed up very quickly, but before everyone got here and everything was unfolding, how frightening was it, and how scared were all your fellow classmates?
It was pretty scary because I never experienced this before in my life. So I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I remembered that I should just run and like stay safe with my friends.
I know that you all do a lot of drills for active shooter, different tragedies that could happen on campus. Did any of that kick in at the time?
Yeah, I just remember, like, if no one's around, just run the other way and like try to like help someone. I remember my bio teacher said like, give 2 pulls on someone. If they're not coming, just run without them.
All right, Ryan, we are so glad that you're okay and that you were willing to speak with us live this morning It's been a while out here, but again, we are right in front of Saugus High School. You can see here over to the side here, there are still a lot of people milling about, still a lot of law enforcement and firefighters out here on the scene at the school. We have talked to a number of students. We spoke with another young lady, Hannah, who explained that when they heard the gunshots, they ran across the street here to one of the homes. She says that there were about 10 students in that home hiding. They didn't know where else to go. She says that she's so grateful that someone was at the home and allowed them to come in and seek shelter because she didn't know where else to go at the time. We also spoke with a father a little earlier, and he said that his daughter was walking, heard the gunshots, they were nearby, and that a teacher then pushed his daughter and another girl into a classroom, possibly saving their lives from this shooter. Still so much needs to be sorted out here at the school because there was just so much happening at the time, so much chaos. But the kids are settling in, trying to understand, and of course there will be crisis counselors available to speak to any of the students that are in need of that today. Reporting live out here in front of Saugus High School. I'll send it back to you out in the studio.
Oh, Amy, if there's any good to hear, it's what you mentioned about teachers who have been stepping in to save kids, and also residents who have been opening those doors just to let those kids inside. I want to turn it over right now to Candace Crone. She is live at Henry Mayo Hospital, where a number of victims are being treated at this hour. Candace, what do you have for us?
That's right, DeMarco. We're still waiting for the news conference to begin here. I know at the last hit I said 11:15. Well, hospital officials have pushed that back. They want the main briefing at the command center to happen first, and then this one will happen. So they couldn't give us a specific time, but there's no change, no update in terms of the conditions, as we've been mentioning. The female patient that died, and 3 male patients. So we are still waiting for more information to come out. But one interesting thing that I saw on their website is that most of the staff here at the hospital are locals. So this obviously probably is very personal for them. They might even know some of the victims. So, but they are all hands on deck today. They are fully staffed. Fortunately, there were not additional victims, so they didn't need to bring in extra resources. So they are certainly working very hard to treat the patients here. So again, waiting for that news conference to start after the main press conference at the command center. Of course, as soon as it does, we'll bring it to you.
All right, Candace, thank you. So unfortunate to learn about that female patient that has expired as a result. Again, these are our live choppers of the sheriff, we believe, that should be getting out at any moment now to join us for a news conference, just arriving there in that field, who has been very busy, very, very busy. Sheriff Villanueva working this active scene, now a huge, massive investigation and crime scene. Not sure which one is the sheriff, but he should be heading. Okay, I see someone that would resemble them from the, looks like him on the right side. Should be heading there where Kara Fincham is on the ground, where authorities will be addressing us and giving us the latest and telling us about the number of agencies that are also involved in sort of manning a situation like this and getting it under control, especially when you talk about the large number of students who were involved in this shooting this morning. Kara Fincham is there on the ground. Kara, I believe the sheriff is heading in your direction, but who do you have with you now?
He is. We've got the sheriff coming from one side, but on the other, this is where the families are reuniting. And Brian Perlman is one of the dads here today. You just got reunited with your daughter, Ellie. Talk to us a little bit about when you first realized something was wrong this morning.
I was actually on my way out of town, ironically, and heard siren after siren, and text my wife, and then got a notification from the school that there was a lockdown. And then heard there was an active shooter situation, which, you know, is a parent's worst nightmare. So I turned around and went home and got my wife, and just like the rest of our community, it was just on pins and needles. And I'm just, you know, so relieved that, you know, the kids are okay, and just praying for the ones that aren't. It's a nightmare.
Was your daughter able to get some text out to you to kind of reassure you during this long period?
She sent a text that she was barricaded in her classroom. She was away from what was going on the back of the campus. She said she couldn't call, and I just felt sick.
I know you told me that you didn't want to sound cliche, but what this reinforces for you is that we need to be prepared. Impossible to be totally prepared for this, but what helped you? Was there anything that you've been going through, or anything that you think needs to be done in the future to prepare for this worst case scenario?
You know, it's one of those things that we have to, and hate to say that we all have to be prepared, consciously aware of what's going on, talking to the kids, talking to the teachers, having them talk to us, because I don't wish this upon anybody. It's awful.
What were you told by authorities when you came to get your daughter?
Just that they would be coming to a central location, which is here at Central Park. We had to walk a few blocks because we couldn't get in, and just to kind of wait patiently. And, you know, my daughter was texting us when she was on the bus, and then when she got here, and then when we saw her, you know, the emotions really poured out.
Do you know if any of her friends were immediately impacted by this? I know she's just a little ways up with a couple of her friends, and they're kind of comforting each other.
I don't think so. She's part of a small-knit group at her theater class. I don't know if they've been impacted. I'm praying that they're not, but obviously some people have been.
Thank you so much for joining us here this morning. We really appreciate it. DeMarco, Suzanne, earlier today we spoke with another mother and son who had just been reunited. Very touching to see that the son was comforting the mother who had just been distraught trying to find him.
My heart goes out for all the parents because I couldn't imagine getting a phone call being told that something happened to my child. It's the worst, like just not knowing. I mean, good thing that he's okay, but I couldn't fathom ever somebody telling me that my child was gone or hurt or involved in this. And we live in such a wonderful community. It's such a shock. It's a complete shock that this happened.
And for you, these are your fellow students. How are you wrapping your mind around this right now?
I think at the moment just try to stay calm, but also worry at the same time for the people who got hurt.
And I saw so many parents here and children just hanging on to each other, reaching out, grabbing someone's hand, reassuring each other that they had come through this okay. We're giving you another look at a different part of this parking lot. You can see a lot of people with the FBI vests and jackets on there. This is one of the command areas where a lot of the officials working here have been meeting. And if we pan around, I want to show you, this is where we're awaiting the Sheriff Villanueva. So all of this happening within very close proximity to each of these different locations. These parents and children walking through this parking lot, and some of them have stopped, Suzanne and DeMarco, and are waiting just kind of on the outside because they want to hear the latest as well. They don't know, and while we've been on the air, I have specifically not mentioned that we know one person has passed away and 2 are in critical condition because some of these students don't know that yet.
Oh my, Karen, we want to let our viewers know that we do have a camera at that scene where the reporters are awaiting a news conference right now. But just that interview with the boy and his mom, just very, very, very touching to see.
Yeah, the humanity and the concern for each other. It wasn't just a mom's concern for her son, but how he was comforting her while she was talking. It's just a traumatic experience for the entire family. And here are the latest bits of information that we know on the shooting that happened at Saugus High School this morning around 7:30 this morning. One female patient has been confirmed dead. 5 people have been injured, 2 are in critical condition. The 15-year-old shooting suspect is in custody. Sheriff Alex Villanueva hasn't said how extensive those injuries are, but that he is hospitalized. And the social media accounts are being investigated. I've been sent several screen grabs. A lot of students are talking about it out there, but they're trying to see what were the clues so they could prevent this kind of thing from happening again.
And the sheriff even mentioning that every single student will be interviewed because they want to know who knew something about this or what were the signs or if there were any signs and what may have caused this student to sort of snap and just start shooting early this morning. Our Leslie Marin is standing by. She's in the neighborhood near the suspect's home, what we believe is the suspect's home. Leslie, what do you have for us?
Yeah, we're standing maybe just walking block away from where investigators are investigating a home that's believed to be the suspect. We do want to speak to Bianca Cuevas. She is actually lives on this street, but also used to go to Saugus High School.
Right. Yes, I did recently transfer to Saugus and then back to Canyon. And it was just to see my house on the news, it absolutely terrified me. I never believed to see this day come ever. I don't know what to think about it.
I can't imagine, obviously, the morning you've had, but have you ever seen this suspect before on this street? I understand you just moved in a few weeks ago.
No, I've never seen him go outside at all.
Do you not recognize the family?
I've never seen a picture of the family. I wouldn't be able to know if I recognize them.
But for you, obviously, you are now attending Canyon High School, but you saw your house on the news this morning after hearing reports of a school shooting at a high school you used to go to. What was the first things running through your mind? Because I understand your mom and family were still at the home.
Yes, seeing my house on the news and my mom's car in the driveway, my first instinct was I have to call my mom. I have to make sure they're okay. I have to make sure all the doors are locked, and to know that the transfer would have possibly not have happened and I would have still stayed at Saugus. It just terrifies me to even think of what would possibly be going on instead.
Have you been able to talk to your mom? Has she told you what she has seen or been told by authorities?
She just said that they had locked all the doors and that they were safe inside and that the cops told them they weren't allowed to leave the house.
But everyone's safe inside at your home?
Yeah, everyone's safe.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bianca, for talking to us. We are, like I said, here on Sycamore Creek and Mulberry Glen Drive, and just maybe a few yards away, you can see several authorities down there investigating a home. We believe there are ATF agents here, FBI agents, along with the Sheriff's Department. Many of these neighbors, we're told, are being told that they can leave their home, but if they do, they may not be able to get back home. We did hear from a man earlier today who says he was woken up by the helicopters and just authorities coming to his home, and that was before he had even heard that there was a shooting that had occurred. Now, we are about maybe 1.5 miles from Saugus High School. I will tell you, maybe 1 mile away is the middle school that was put on lockdown, as well as another elementary school. We are not hearing of any neighbors in this area that have actually seen or communicated with the family just yet, but we haven't really been able to get close enough to the home. Of course, you expect this neighborhood to be on lockdown for several hours. This will be a lengthy investigation. DeMarco, Suzanne.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, we want to learn more about the suspect, who this young man clearly is, and why he would possibly do something like this.
Yes.
What were the signs leading up to it, if there were any?
Yeah, Sheriff Alex Villanueva tweeted just a few minutes ago saying, if your student hasn't been released, we appreciate your patience. They have been a witness and are being interviewed. And just from parents that I know, they've sent me messages this morning that their children knew who this person was. Now, they may just be sharing the information amongst each other, but a picture of who this person was and the problems leading up to this shooting are emerging.
Yeah, we spoke with a mom today who was basically trying to text her son, and it was just troubling, to say the least.
It was very scary. And he kept texting me that he was okay, and he kept telling me, I love you, and that just kind of got me more emotional and worried. You are never settled until you actually see for yourself that he's okay, right?
Oh, and then you hug like you've never hugged before.
And as we heard from one of our producers here who works for David Goldstein, Lorraine, she was worried about her son and just broke down in tears because she's a seasoned journalist, multi-Emmy award-winning producer, but just broke down in tears because when it hits this close to home and you can't get in contact with your child, you just fear the worst. That's just, you know, that parent's connection to their child.
And I tell my friends all the time, it never gets old. You know, every situation is it's brand new and it's fresh, and it's like it never happened again. You can't become numb to a situation like this. You just can't.
And our Cara Finstrom is joining us again live. Cara?
So earlier we spoke with the dad. Now Ellie is joining us here. And Ellie, I know you've just been kind of hugging your friends, your family. What's been going through your mind? This had to be just an unimaginable experience for you this morning.
Yeah. I mean, every day you see another news report of like unfamiliar high school kids shot, school shooting. And it's kind of a mix of it'll never happen to me and when will it happen to me? And we have drills all the time of like threats, and we lock down, and this lockdown was real. And so it's kind of feels kind of surreal that it happened.
Where were you when this happened, and what did you hear first?
I was at the very back of campus, and a kid came sprinting in, and the teacher's like, what are you doing? And he said, gunshots. And then we just sprung into action, barricaded the door, lights off, back of class, huddled down.
And which class were you in?
I was in my first period math class.
And what did you do at that point? Were you able to get a text out to Dad? Did you just huddle together?
Yeah, I texted Mom and Dad. You know, before you hear it from the news, I'm okay. We're locked down. We're huddled in the back of the class. Rumors flying, kids shot, school shooter. You know, it's all these news stories that you hear, and now it's you.
I know there probably isn't a real concept for time when you're in a situation like that, but do you have any idea how long you were there before you left?
I know we were locked down for over an hour, and they evacuated classes one by one, and so us being the back of campus, we had to wait a while, and then sheriff deputies came in, everybody hands up, single file,
out of the class.
And did the sheriff deputies speak with you? What happened with you, between you and the authorities before you were released to Dad?
Pretty much they just said everything's okay, you're safe now. We all had to bus to the park here to be reunited with our families. There's still a lot of unconcluded information, so, you know.
I know how excited Dad was to see you because he shared that with us already, but what was it like for you to see your parents?
It's, like I say, it's kind of like the it'll never happen to me thing, and then you realize how quickly things can change. And so, you know, hug your parents, tell people you love that you love them, because that's really scary.
Your generation is going through something that a lot of my generation and other generations did not. This is still fresh to you, but is there anything else you want to say?
I mean, with politics so tight, there's the whole don't take my guns, but after you're in something like this, don't take my life.
Thank you for speaking with us. You're very eloquent. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dad. So we are still having, again, some of these families leave, and we're awaiting that news conference here with the sheriff.
All right, Cara, thank you. We'll check in with you in just a moment.
Thank you, Cara. And now we're going to be joined by Amy Johnson. We're looking at live images of people on the ground. It looks like SWAT team members, but you were joined by somebody with a school board.
Yes, and this Joe Messino, he can't speak much about what happened here today, but he can talk to us about what is going to happen now. For the students, who's here to help them?
Well, we have staff counselors that will be here to help them. We also have outside sources that we partner with. The Youth Project is one of those sources out here that will bring them in, help counsel the kids with their grief. Several churches have already stepped up and said, what do you need from us? What do you need us to do? So the next few days will be days of healing around here and at the school and in the community as a whole, because this is pretty much a quiet community. And we do get along for the most part. We do things together. We do help people together here in the community.
Are you making any plans here on campus to try to ensure more security for the students?
Well, that's interesting. You know, I hear whenever something like this happens, you hear everybody saying we've got to do better, we've got to do better. Anybody who tells you that you can keep your kids protected 100% of the time is not telling you the truth. But we're diligent. We work around the clock to make sure that we keep the kids safe and do what we can. We partner with the FBI, the Sheriff's Department, and private security firms to go through drills to make sure we keep the kids safe. And, you know, I want you to think about something. There's just around 2,500 kids at this school today. No life lost is acceptable. Nobody being shot is acceptable, but this could have been a lot worse. And thank God for the first responders, the staff here. They did a great job this morning.
And you all have had drills to prepare the students for an active shooter on campus?
They do. At every one of our schools, we have drills, and we have practice drills. You've got to be careful though, because you don't want to put the kids on edge all the time and make it really bad. But you let them know what they need to do when an authority figure is telling you what to do in a situation like this. My understanding today, the kids were barricading doors with desks when they heard the gunshots and went into the classrooms. You don't just do that without a little bit of training.
And we understand that multiple schools were on lockdown, possibly all of the schools in the district?
Yeah, there's 6 school districts in this valley, elementary school and high school districts. Our high school district, every school was on lockdown. And the elementary school districts did a soft lockdown to make sure that their kids were safe as well.
And so these counselors will be on campus to help students and faculty, I'm guessing?
Of course, yeah, and faculty, and anybody who really needs it in the community. If you can see all the houses around here, I'm sure some of these people were traumatized with it too. We're a community-based education system, and we'll open it up to anybody who needs the help.
When do you expect that the students will return to school here?
We haven't talked about that yet as a whole, and I think it's trying to find out where the kids are at and how quickly we can get back to normality, because we've been told that the quicker you can get back to a normal day, the better it is for the young students. I don't know if I've been talking to the students as they come out, and just to assure them, give them my card and say, look, if you need anything, you need some help, we're all here for you. That's what this community is about.
And what kind of reaction are you getting from the kids? Do they seem like they are doing somewhat okay after what they've seen and experienced?
Yeah, my first question to them is look, up till this morning, how did you feel being in the school district here? Safe. Every one of them said I felt safe. I've got to think now. I've got to rethink how I feel here. So as a Board of Education member, that's one of the things we'll do to debrief down the road. After they get their investigations done, we'll look at what we might have been able to do better, what we did do, what we didn't do, how we can help the kids get over this or get past this.
But it's got to be more difficult because it was a fellow classmate that opened fire.
Yeah, you probably heard all the rumors this morning. We didn't know whether it was a walk-on or a student or what have you. This student was not on anybody's radar, is my understanding. And you're right, it's a fellow student. And if you listen to the other interviews, listen to the kids talking, that's what they're saying is he was a student at this school. What makes somebody do this? And I guess we'll never really know, will we?
But you'll try to help them understand and deal.
Oh, yeah, of course we will. And we get as many counselors here as we need to get for them, and as long as we need them here.
If you're following our ongoing coverage here, we are standing by, as you can see the podium there, to get an update in California on the high school shooting in Santa Clarita at Saugus High School. Officials there are going to give us an update on the shooting incident and the situation there as they're getting set up. I want to give you the latest of what we know. One person, female, confirmed dead, 2 in critical condition, and 1 male in good condition. I want to take you now to the sheriff, who will be giving us the latest update. Hopefully we'll know more details about the suspect and the conditions of the patients as well. After this is done, we are also standing by for another live press conference. This one will be from the hospital there. They have been practicing drills for this type of an event, and we'll get an update from the hospital as well. But for now, let's listen to the sheriff.
Okay, we're ready to go here. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate it. Good. Good morning. I'm Sergeant Benjamin Grubb with the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department's Sheriff Information Bureau. I thank you all for coming here today. I want to get right into it regarding this incident in Santa Clarita, specifically Saugus High School. Without further ado, Sheriff Alex Villanueva and Sheriff's Homicide Captain Kent Wegener, W-E-G-N-E-G-N-E-R.
I regret to inform it's a sad day in Saugus, it's a sad day in Los Angeles County and the nation for another tragic shooting at a school. At 7:38 this morning, Santa Clarita Sheriff Station received a 911 call of a shooting at Saugus High School. Within seconds, we received multiple calls, and within 2 minutes, at 7:40, our first units arrived on scene and encountered in the quad area of the school multiple victims, gunshot wounds. There were a total of 6 victims who were promptly triaged and transported to the local hospitals for treatment. Among those who were transported, it turned out to be the suspect, who is currently in the hospital in grave condition, and he's a male, Asian, 16 years of age, and a student of the school. The other 5 students, I'll have Captain Wegener provide their demographics. The school was locked down. They did partial evacuation. We also sheltered in place a portion of the school until we established who was responsible for this tragic shooting. The surrounding schools in the area were also placed on lockdown as a precaution. We did identified who the shooter was through firsthand witnesses, video surveillance. We confirmed it. We then executed a search warrant at the residence of the suspect, and now we're going through the very lengthy process of conducting a thorough investigation to figure out what happened and why. At the same time, we're busy now doing the reunification with the students with their parents, and all of the affected students have been notified, their families have been notified, and they're with them currently. So I'm now going to turn this over to Captain Wegener.
Thank you, Sheriff. My name is Captain Kent Wegener, W-E-G-E-N-E-R. I'm the captain of Sheriff's Homicide Bureau. This morning at 7:38, Santa Clarita Station received a call of a 245 just occurred, an assault with a deadly weapon, a shooting that had just occurred at 21900 Centurion Way in Santa Clarita at Saugus High School. Upon arrival within 2 minutes, Santa Clarita deputies recognized that it was an active shooter situation and conducted a rapid deployment onto the school premises. When they reached the quad area, they discovered 6 persons who were suffering from gunshot wounds. These were all students of the high school. All the students were triaged and transported to a local hospital. The suspect was later identified as one of the victims who was found in the quad. he is identified as a 16-year-old male whose birthday is today. The weapon that he used was recovered at the scene. It's a .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol, which had no more rounds in it, had no more bullets in it. He is a resident in the 22900 block of Sycamore Creek Drive in Santa Clarita. That location was contained by sheriff's deputies, and a cursory search was done to identify any other potential victims which may be at the location. There were none there. It is now being contained. A search warrant is being written, and it will be conducted to process that scene for evidence. We are in the process of interviewing students who were witnesses to this incident. Some of those students are being taken are still at the high school in a multi-purpose room, and other students are at Grace Baptist Church, where they will be interviewed by sheriff's homicide detectives. Additionally, we have scenes at the quad at the school to process the crime scene there, a team at the suspect's house, a team at two different local hospitals. And we have another team that's working with our tech crew to process any video which we may be able to get from the surveillance system at the high school. The FBI is here, and they are collaborating with us to preserve and capture any cell phone video which the students may have captured of this incident at the time that it happened. The suspect's girlfriend and his mother are at Santa Clarita Station with detectives currently. Detectives have reviewed the video at the scene, which clearly show the subject in the quad withdraw a handgun from his backpack, shoot and wound 5 people, and then shoot himself in the head. There are no other subjects who are outstanding as part of this incident or who took part in this assault. The victims who are hospitalized, and I regret to say that at 9:23 this morning, one of the female victims, age 16, passed away. Her parents are at the hospital. There's another female victim, age 14, another female victim, age 15, and 2 male victims, each 14 years of age. Again, this is preliminary information. I know there are rumors out there about social media posts and different videos that may have been posted from the scene. We will be looking into that. At this point, I don't have any information about that. I can tell you that we have checked for recent threats involving Saugus High School. We identified 2, which were both investigated and had no nexus to this subject. At this point, thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Los Angeles County Fire Department Chief Darrell Osby.
Thank you. Hello, Darrell Osby, Fire Chief of the Los Angeles County Fire Department. And as mentioned today, the Saugus incident, this is a pretty sobering incident for those involved, including first responders. On behalf of the Los Angeles County Fire Department, our sympathies and prayers and positive spirits go out to everyone that was affected. As mentioned previously, along with the Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles County Fire Department got a call at 7:38 this morning for a shooting at Saugus High School. Our resources arrived on scene with the sheriff's already on scene. We train routinely with the Sheriff's Department for these types of incidents. Our personnel went in with force protection, which means protection from the sheriffs to go in and assess the scene. At the height of the incident, the Los Angeles County Fire Department had 10 fire engines, 7 paramedic squads, 24 ambulances, 1 helicopter, and the appropriate overhead on scene. Our objectives during these types of incidents is life safety intervention, triage, treatment, and transportation to the hospital. As mentioned earlier, there were a total of 6 victims that were inflicted by gunshots. They were considered critical on scene. The most critical, unfortunately, one was a headshot to the head. and the other was in cardiac full arrest. 4 victims were transported to Henry Mayo Hospital. 2 other critical were transported to Holy Cross Hospital. And then we had a non-critical that was transported to Olive for a total of 7 incidents. As we conclude this incident, from the fire department's perspective, working with the sheriffs and investigators, also there were several members of my department, and this is a very close-knit community that had kids that were also at the school. And some of those members have already been relieved to get the proper peer support and mental support on behalf of the department and on behalf of the County of Los Angeles. So our department will continue to support our personnel with the appropriate mental, spiritual, and behavioral support along with their families, and we will keep everyone else involved in our deepest thoughts.
Thank you. Now from the Los Angeles Field Office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Assistant Director in Charge, Paul Delacourt.
Good morning. I'm Paul Delacourt, the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles Field Office. We are once again here in front of you with another somber and sobering press statement where we're talking about something that no parents should ever have to go through, no high school student should ever have to worry about, and yet we're here to talk about it again. The FBI rolled crisis response resources. We are here in support of the LA County Sheriff's Department. At this time, we are collaborating on victim and witness interviews and digital media exploitation. We have begun a social media scrub. We have our evidence response team and our victim witness services teams on standby, ready to assist. We have resources available from Cyber Division and our Laboratory Division, if necessary, to assist the LA County Sheriff's Department in this investigation. I can report to you that at this time we have no known additional threats. We have no threats to this or any other school, or no threats to this or any other area. We're here at this point is a police cooperation matter. We will run all the leads to ground, but at this point we have no indication of any motivation or ideology. It's early on in this investigation. I'm pleased with the collaboration with our partners, proud of our response and our collaboration with our partners, but once again, it's sad that we have had to bring those resources to bear in another situation like this. Thank you.
Next, Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger.
I first want to thank LA County Sheriff's Department, who responded within 2 minutes of the call that came in regarding this horrific act. We have Department of Mental Health has support teams on site right now working with the students as well as the family members. As you can imagine, the impact this is going to have not only on the school but on this community is tremendous. And the Department of Mental Health stands ready to support the community in an entirety. I want to thank Assemblymember Christy Smith for being here. We've got the state, federal, and local officials all here working together. Many people are asking why. That will come with time, but right now our focus is on supporting the community. And you heard Chief Osby say that many of the sheriffs and fire officials that work here live here and either have children that attend the school or attend the school. So this is hit very, very, very close to home. My heart aches, but I stand ready to support this community and lead and make sure that we provide the resources necessary to help. Thank you.
Next, we have Assemblymember Christy Smith.
Thank you. It's a very tragic day for our communities, and I stand with Supervisor Barger in thanking our first responders, the law enforcement community with Sheriff's Department, our fire department for their immediate response and preventing further loss of life in this matter. I also stand with the county, the city, our school district allies in saying the state will bring all necessary resources to bear as we help the victims of this senseless tragedy to recover, as we help our community to recover, as hopefully we learn something from this tragedy about how we move on and hopefully prevent future tragedies like this. But we appreciate your cooperation and your sensitivity to what our community is going through right now. We are very close-knit. We will come together and we will survive. We just can't afford another tragic day like this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Santa Clarita Mayor Marsha McQueen.
Thank you. We may be the third largest city in LA County, but we are a close-knit, family-oriented community, and our family sticks together. I have a granddaughter who was at Saugus High School this morning, and when I heard about it, the feeling that went over me was indescribable. So I felt the same thing that our families are feeling about their kids here in the community. And I just want to say that we, as a city, are going to be working with all agencies together to try and get through this terrible, terrible experience, including making our activities center available for this evening between 5 and 7. The school district will tell you more about that. I just want every single family member to know that we are with you, our heart is with you, and that's all I can say as to this horrible thing. There's no words to describe it. Thank you.
From Hart School District, Colin Nielsen.
Thank you. I'd like to first thank our first responders and the City of Santa Clarita for their tremendous response this morning. First and foremost, our hearts go out to the families of those affected by this terrible incident. Words are insufficient in times such as these. Nevertheless, we want to give you the facts that we have available to us at this moment regarding the incident at Saugus High School this morning. There was a shooting at Saugus High School before the start of classes. Law enforcement responded immediately and came on campus to address the situation with a massive presence. Several students have been transported, as you've heard, to local hospitals. All schools in the Hart District were initially placed on lockdown as a precaution to deal with and to allow law enforcement to deal with the situation. At this point, all schools have been removed from lockdown. Once the scene was declared safe by law enforcement, Saugus students were transported to Central Park via city and district buses to be reunited with their families. We are currently in the process of formulating a plan to care for our school and our community, and will continue sharing updates as we learn more, including for the plan for the days ahead. Tonight at the Santa Clarita Activity Center from 5 to 7 p.m., we will have grief counselors and mental health professionals available for our community. We will continue to work together with law enforcement, the City of Santa Clarita, and our community partners. We encourage the Hart District family to check with our website for regular updates. Thank you.
Again, we're going to do one more speaker, and then we're going to do Spanish. Santa Clarita Sheriff Station Captain Ron Lewis.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to get the message out to the community. My name is Robert Lewis, and I am the captain for Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station. This is a tough day for Santa Clarita. I've been a 52-year resident of Santa Clarita, and I grew up in the Saugus area. Santa Clarita is a very, very strong community, and I appreciate everyone surrounding themselves around us this morning and helping as much as possible from the community. We are working through this event over the course of the next few hours and the course of the next few days. Currently, we have a reunification center here at Central Park. We want to make sure that everyone knew that was the reunification center for all parents and children who went to Saugus High School. As well as I want to make sure that the community is aware that we, as Captain Wagner had spoken, we have several people that witnessed this, and we are going to be talking to them, and we've been in contact with them and their parents to make sure that they know that they are safe. So we're getting the communication out to the public as quickly as possible, and getting the information out to everyone and all the residents. As we move forward over the course of the next few days, I'd like to look in every single camera's eye and look in every eye of every resident of Santa Clarita and the surrounding area and everyone who helps us. Santa Clarita is a very, very, very strong community. I ask the parents and I ask everybody in the community, in the days ahead and in the years ahead, the main thing we need to do is wrap our arms around each other, make sure we keep in contact with our kids, with each other, in our relationships, in our families, so we know what our family members are going through, so we know what's happening in everyone's lives. As a strong community between Santa Clarita and the unincorporated area, 294,000 residents, We all, 294,000 residents, need to gather around this incident. Tragic, and tragedy struck. But how do we come out of tragedy? We come out of it by surrounding each other, holding hands, saying prayers, and spending time together to see what's going on, see what's happening. And then my last thing is we need to say no more. As the FBI special agent said, this is a tragic event. It happens too frequently. And across the nation, I hear frequently, no more, no more, no more. When are we going to come together as a community, Santa Clarita, and the rest of the communities, to say no more? It really has to be put out there through you, the media, to get that information out. But I thank you very much for being here. We'll be taking some questions in a few minutes. I think we have one more speaker. We're going to have one more speaker that's going to come up from Henry Mayo Hospital. Patrick Moody. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Okay, now the sheriff is going to do a Spanish interview with the assistance of homicide Captain Kent Wegener.
A las 7:38 de esta mañana recibimos una llamada de emergencia.
You've been listening into an update there in Santa Clarita, California, where police have been giving us new details. We do know at this hour that the 16-year-old male Asian suspect is currently in custody. He is fighting for his life in a hospital. His mother is speaking to detectives as well as his girlfriend, according to police. There are still 5 students whose situation they are watching, and they're in multiple hospitals. We also know there was a partial evacuation early this morning at the school. Some students remained in lockdown. They are slowly releasing those students throughout the course of this afternoon. And we do know the weapon, that the active shooter, according to police, used a .45 caliber semi-automatic weapon. There were no more rounds left inside of that gun by the time this deadly shooting took place. I want to bring in CBS News Chief Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Begays, who joins us in Washington. And our Jamie Yuccas is there in Los Angeles as well. And Paul Violas, he's our CBS News law enforcement and security analyst, as well as a host of Security Matters, which is on CBS News Radio. Paul, I want to start with you. We know these details that have come down. What will police be doing in the coming hours at this point?
Right now, Rena, everything is about foreseeability. It's about prosecutorial preparation. What I mean by that is that you have to break this down and now understand that law enforcement has to prepare a case they're going to present to the district attorney for prosecution. So every single component of the investigation right now has to be methodical. This really goes to, so our viewers understand more in depth of why the sheriff was talking about the need to interview all the students. We understand that parents want their kids back, and that's understandable. But at the end of the day, we have to, as law enforcement, make sure that we identify any possible information that's out there relative to what may or may not have been foreseeable, things that the shooter may have said. We know, Rena, that 88% of shooters in his demographic have encouraged leakage, which means that they brag about get-even plans. So right now, law enforcement is going to secure those search warrants. They will not look at anything until they have those search warrants. Once they do, and they'll be meticulously written, once they'll do, they'll proceed to the home, they'll proceed to devices. At that point, information will be collected and disseminated amongst the investigative team. Part of that will go to social media. Part of it will go to what may or may not have been in the house. Some of that will go to emails and communication. How did he get the weapon? Did he collaborate with anybody? Did he talk to anybody? And last but not least is really going to be the examination of closed-circuit television cameras and, if possible, if LA County has in this area, AI or any type of facial recognition that they have, in order to rule out completely that he wasn't working with or he didn't plan this with anybody else. So all of this is going simultaneously as we sit back and start watching this unfold in the hours and days to come.
I want to turn to Jamie Yuccas, who's on the ground in Los Angeles. Jamie, we did hear police say that they have spoken, the detectives are currently speaking to the girlfriend of the suspect and also his mother. What more do we know?
Well, the thing I thought was interesting, Reno, was that today is also his birthday. It has been a very chaotic morning, of course, as we work to unravel a lot of these details. So we kept hearing a 15-year-old suspect, Asian male, from the very beginning. Today we learned that it was
Jamie,
actually his 16th
I just want to interrupt
birthday.
you for 1 second. The sheriff is back speaking in English. I want to turn right back to see what else he has to say.
Be able to determine that.
If I could pause in for a second.
Surveillance video.
The investigators looked at the surveillance video from the school, not cell phone video. It's an established video system, and they watched it.
And
the timeline on that, number of minutes from the 6th?
You know, I can't comment on that.
I do want to update one thing. We just received word that one of the 14-year-old victims at the hospital has also passed away just moments ago. So our fatalities now are 2. So with heavy heart, we're going to move forward with the investigation, figure out what went wrong. And I hate to have Saugus be added to the names of Columbine, Parkland, Sandy Hook, but it's a reality that affects us all throughout the nation, something we're going to have to deal with. And as Captain Lewis said, we got to figure out what are we doing wrong and how can we stop this from happening in the future. So we'll figure that out over time.
Is that one female deceased, one male deceased?
Can you please clarify the overall number of people who were struck by gunfire?
We have 6 struck by gunfire, and that includes the suspect.
Somebody said there was a 7th person who was transported. I believe it's a girl.
That was a non-critical, non-shot victim.
Not a gunshot.
Not a gunshot. Yeah.
I interviewed a girl who was in a choir class who said there was a girl who was huddled with her sheltering for about 20 minutes who herself was shot. Discovered she was shot, and then she was taken out, I guess, when police first arrived. So I wonder if she may have gone to the hospital later or something.
Well, she'd probably be one of those 6, but we'll sort through all of that as time goes on. No, it's a male student. That we're still working to develop that.
No, that was the question.
Okay.
Is there any evidence of any kind of bullying that might have been?
We're way too early in the investigation to be able to figure that out, but we'll be able to get to that. Sir?
Yes, sir. There's a report that there were many off-duty deputies that have children at the school that were also able to be among the first responders. Do you know if that's true?
Yes, as the fire chief said, this school, a lot of our local, from our department, from the fire department, from other police departments, this area has an awful lot of law enforcement presence there, so it would not surprise me if they were available and did respond.
And do you know if
No, I have not seen it personally.
Can you clarify whether the suspect was one of those critically injured or whether he has also passed away? Can you clarify that?
He's one of the ones, he shot himself in the head, so he's in grave condition. He is not one of the ones that has passed away.
And Sheriff, can you just clarify as well, because we couldn't quite hear, are you saying that another male
Yes.
has passed away, 16-year-old?
Yeah, it was a 16-year-old female and a 14-year-old male. The information we have is that they're not in critical condition. The ones that were in critical are the ones that have passed away. And outside of the suspect himself, the other ones, I won't comment any further. I'll leave that up to a representative from the hospital.
And from Henry Mayo Hospital, Public Information Officer Patrick Moody, MOODY.
So I'll be brief. I'm sorry to be here today. About 80% of our employees live in the Santa Clarita Valley, so we are touched by this. Our hearts go out to the victims and their families. We train for this year-round. We hope the day will never come, and today it came. We were prepared. We immediately called the code triage, and we were prepared to receive patients. We had 4 patients at the hospital. 2 are deceased. 1 is in critical condition, and 1 is in good condition. The question that you're all going to ask me is the suspect at Henry Mayo? It's a question I can't answer. I'm going to defer that question to the Sheriff's Department. Thank you very much.
Okay, without further ado, that's going to be it for this evening's press conference. There will be updates put out later. Please follow social media and Los Angeles County Sheriff Department's Facebook and internet pages. We'll try to get any updated information out as soon as we can. Thank you.